Sound Booth Theater presents a deep dive into Earth Force, Relict Legacy, Book 1. Written by Shemer Kuznets, narrated by Jeff Hayes. Featuring Justin Thomas James as Diamond, Will M. Watt as Elzygo, Dory Sachs as Lana, and Annie Ellicott as Nori. Sound design by Ahmed Mahmood. Music by Aaron J. Morton. Directed by Jeff Hayes. Chapter 18. Gauntlet. Unity flew through the upper reaches of Earth's atmosphere, her prolonged neck pointing at the small continent below. Nathan was back in his pod, accessing information only he understood. He could feel the ship continuing to shift beneath him, hull and bulkheads reshaping more slowly than before, completing the transformation that was started by their union. He was still perturbed by Elzygo's claim that the tech's effect was benign, but he couldn't deny that he felt better than ever since the synthesis, since he allowed the tech to take the tiniest root in his mind. Then, as they reached the upper parts of Earth's atmosphere, the final panel twisted into place and the ship's transformation was complete. Nathan now had an important decision to make, the ship's first upgrade. He knew what his friends would likely choose, and he wasn't comfortable with it. He contemplated making the decision on his own, but finally shook his head. His path might allow him to run the ship, but he could never fly it better than the navigators, fix it faster than the engineer, or analyze it as efficiently as an expert. They were in this together, and that meant they all had to make the decision together. With a small mental effort, he made a line of text appear on the main view screen.
Alter mode upgrade completed.
Guys!
Lana exclaimed.
Unity has finished the upgrade.
Yeah, we can see that,
Bulko said tartly, also looking at the giant text in front of them.
Now can someone tell me what this alter mode is?
Lana frowned and pored over her console.
Internal sensors came up with nothing. There are a bunch of new subroutines in the system that seems to be connected, but they're weaved into everything inside the ship. I see no obvious ways to activate it. Nathan?
Everyone turned to look at him. The young man pondered the issue. He could feel Unity's new upgrade affecting her in subtle but deep ways. It was somehow connected to the excavator she'd absorbed, but the exact nature of the change eluded him. The new parts resided deep at the fringes of their tentative connection, and going there would mean surrendering himself fully to the tech and to their alluring whisper of anarchy. It was a point Nathan was unwilling to descend to. He shook his head.
He doesn't know.
Nori's brow creased.
That's too bad, but it's not important right now. We need to decide on our next upgrade.
She manipulated her console, and the list of options appeared.
What's to think about? We should get the asteroid cannon.
I agree it's the obvious choice, but with that Enthidlon scout around, we might want to upgrade our armor.
2 options remained alone on display.
Basic plating, level 1. Palladium, 18 tons. Asteroid cannon, level 5. Trinium, 200 kilograms. Mithril, 80 kilograms.
Nathan stirred in his seat and nodded.
Nathan thinks we should go with the plating. He doesn't like weapons.
I still think we should get the cannon. The warped broodmother is a more pressing threat.
Yeah, I see your point. But on the other hand, we do have a lot of ammunition now, so there's a case to be made for bulking up our defenses first. Lana, what do you think?
The young expert bit her nails. Like Nathan, she wasn't a big fan of weapons. But on the other hand...
How long will it take for each upgrade to finish?
Nathan contemplated the question. Unity's partly formed consciousness was hard to understand, but there seemed to be a guiding principle behind the upgrade's logic.
If I get it right, Nathan says it's less of a question of complexity than sheer mass. In that case, something that takes a total of 280 kilos will be a lot faster than requiring 18 tons. We should get the cannon first, hope it'll be quick, and get the plating upgrade right after.
The girl makes a lot of sense.
Asteroid cannon it is.
Nathan felt the order run through the ship, affecting it in a subtle manner. He could have resisted the order if he wanted to. He let it through. Bulko stepped toward the cargo hold and paused at the entrance.
That is so cool.
What is?
The containers opened on their own and a bunch of the stuff got sucked down into the floor.
Nathan nodded. He could feel the raw alloys run through the ship, like blood pumping through veins. Lana tapped a few keys and one of the main monitors changed to show the surface of the ship. A small bump began to emerge from the hull, directly over the bridge.
Asteroid cannon upgrade, 2%.
It's fast.
Nori offered Nathan a faint smile.
You were right.
Yep, looks like it'll be done in about an hour.
Good. Then let's not waste any more time. I'll take us to the Grand Mall first. I'm sure Diamond will be thrilled to get the ammo.
Thrilled is putting it mildly. Have you ever seen a fat old man get jiggy with it?
Nori guided the ship with gentle movements of her hologram-wrapped fingers, her eyes narrowed in concentration too much to join the general mirth. The surface became visible as they burst through the cloud layer, showing familiar destroyed buildings.
Guys? I'm getting weird readings on the sensors.
What do you see, girl?
I'm not sure. There are a lot of red and yellows, and the warped are attacking!
Can you show us?
The main view screen changed into a topographic map of the city with Lou's Yard at the center. The conquered shelter was still colored in intense red, but unlike before, 2 tendrils of yellow spiked with red dots extended out of it, one to each of the inhabited shelters.
They split their forces to attack both shelters at once. We have to do something. The people down there don't stand a chance.
The outer edges of both tendrils had almost reached their destination, and yellow pixels started surrounding the 2 shelters.
You're too late. We have to get down there, but who do we help first?
Martin! They are already surrounded!
Diamond! Martin's got thicker walls and better weapons. They can hold on longer.
Shit. We don't have time for debate. Lana, Bulko's right. Martin has a better chance of holding out.
I'm going to kill that blue freak when I see him next. If he hadn't delayed us, we could have been there by now.
I'm going as fast as I can.
Nori said, guiding the freighter dangerously close to the ground.
Touchdown in 30 seconds.
The ground zoomed past them and they soon saw the large mall in the distance. At least 100 warped were storming toward the building. A dozen were already there, pounding on the walls, some even clawing their ways upward. The ship sped on, not slowing even when they got closer.
What are you doing? We'll crash!
I'm going to put us right at the front gate. Unity will block the entrance while we unpack the ammo crates. How's the cannon doing?
Lana glanced at the secondary monitor.
Asteroid cannon upgrade, 32%.
It's not going to be ready in time!
Brace yourself!
The freighter flew straight at the tall walls. Lana closed her eyes, expecting to crash into them. At the last possible second, Nori threw her hands backward and a deep shudder ran through the ship as she made a 180-degree turn on the spot. Their momentum carried them the last 100 meters, then the ship's thrusters re-engaged. Another deep shudder ensued, followed by a sudden jolt, and the ship came to a complete stop.
Killing the engines! Done. Pull out your weapons. Go, go, go!
Lana drew her zapper and ran after Bulko toward the cargo hold. The engineer's huge revolver was already out, ready to go at a moment's notice. Nori hurried after them. The large door was already descending when they reached it. Despite Nori's superb flying skills, she had miscalculated slightly. The back of the ship had rammed into the reinforced metal gate of the shelter, denting it out of shape. The cargo door lowered halfway, then stopped with a metallic screech. A tear in the shelter's gate, about 2 meters wide, appeared, revealing the anxious faces of the guards beyond it.
Oh, thank God it's you! I thought the warped had managed to burst through.
Noah, we've got the ammo right here. Hurry, let's distribute it around.
A snarl drew her attention. A centipede-like monster was worming its way through the side gap between the ship and the structure.
Warped, level 3.
2 beams of energy hit it as the 2 women fired the zappers. The creature screeched at the smoking holes in its body but kept trying to wriggle in. Then Bulko fired. The huge warped buster round tore through the injured creature, blasting it apart in a spray of gore and shrapnel. The large man holstered his gun and grunted as he lifted a huge ammo crate, carrying it to the opening.
Here, 25,000 cartridges in this one alone.
It took 4 guards on the other side of the gate, working together to take the crate from him.
Bulko! Is that you?
Diamond's voice carried over.
Yeah, it's us!
Nori shouted back, carrying smaller crates and passing them along.
What's your status?
We killed a few of the monsters with the ammo you left us, but it's a drop in the bucket. We have smaller warp trying to punch through our walls, and my scouts spotted bigger ones just a few minutes away. You guys barely made it in time. Take the crates into the residential area. I want all civilians reloading weapons and loading up magazines as quickly as possible. Guards, get to the firing holes and start shooting!
Just hand me a gun and cut me loose.
A woman shouted. Nori recognized the voice as belonging to Caddy, the sharpshooter she helped Martin to level up.
What are you doing here?
Nori noticed the woman was already level 4. Caddy didn't throw her a second glance.
Too busy killing monsters now. Talk later.
What's going on?
Warped made it inside! It's attacking the civilians!
Warped on the roof! They're punching through!
Shit. Diamond, get some guards into the ship ASAP. Nori, take them to the roof. I'm going inside.
The large man grabbed the edge of the ruptured gate and pulled himself into the building.
On it.
Diamond hurried Caddy and 2 other guards into the freighter. They barely made it in before Unity started lifting. The shelter's guards blocked the breached gate behind them with thick steel plates. A huge claw grabbed the edge of the still open cargo door. Lana screamed and punched the closing mechanism, but the monster wouldn't let go. The ship was already a few meters in the air, bringing the creature along with it. Then another claw grabbed the straining door. Then another. A giant, humanoid head appeared between the 3 limbs.
Warped. Level 8.
A long, spiky tongue rolled out of its gaping mouth and lashed out toward the frightened expert. Lana was saved at the last second as Nathan rammed into her, sending her to the floor. The tongue missed her by centimeters. The 3 guards opened fire at the giant's head. Their shots pinged off its skull, but the streaming bullets harassed it enough to keep it from pulling itself completely in while the cargo door slowly closed. The creature withdrew its long tongue, readying it for another attack. Then the door slammed shut, severing its clawed fingers, which fell to the floor.
Shit! That was intense.
Caddy said with a crazed grin on her face.
Gonna need something a little more serious for the next round.
The woman strapped the assault carbine she was holding across her back and pulled forward a heavy-looking shotgun instead. She kicked open a box of warped busters and started loading the bullets one by one.
Get ready. We've reached the roof. Opening the cargo door now.
Bulko ran through the panicked crowd toward the sounds of screams and gunshots. 10 guards were standing in front of a hole in the wall, shooting at the massive claws, tentacles, and buzzsaws that were struggling to reach inside. Behind them, people were screaming and running as a warped that looked like a rolling bush of thorny metal rolled over them, its spikes tearing them apart.
Warped. Level 5.
Ignoring the panicked masses, Bulko stopped and retrieved a small syringe from his belt. He took in a deep breath, plunged the needle into his neck, and pressed on the plunger. His eyes instantly turned red, and his muscles rippled under his shirt, threatening to burst open his sleeves. The engineer snarled, took out his zapper, and ran straight at the unopposed creatures, shooting repeatedly. The spiky bush monster ignored the shots, which barely dealt it any damage. An old man stumbled into the line of fire. A beam pierced his shoulder, making him stagger. Then 4 spikes erupted out of his chest, shredding it to bits. With a shout of rage, Bulko charged ahead, running through the bodies strewn around, straight at the creature. He drew back his hand, the puncher loaded and ready. Then, beast and warped abomination collided. A spray of broken spikes filled the air at the impact, but more tore through the engineer's body, though they failed to pierce him like they did the Level 0 victims. Ignoring the pain, Volko punched forward, aiming at the creature's center of mass. Spikes exploded outward, and the monster was hurled away, leaving the engineer's chest looking like a pincushion. Oblivious to his wounds, Volko roared and charged again, punching the dazed monster again and again until nothing but broken heaps of gory metal spikes remained. He stumbled back, suddenly weak from the loss of blood as the red glow left his eyes. He caught himself, though, and the tech inside his body worked feverishly to patch up his injuries. Almost as an afterthought, 4 slender robotic arms extended out of the engineer's shoulder and started pulling shards of metal out of his body. The shouting ceased, and people stopped to stare at the hulk of a man, covered in blood and warped bits as he stood, concentrating, while alien-looking arms were removing spikes from his body. Volko glanced at the 10 guards blocking the entrance. 2 of them had fallen, but they seemed to be holding their own. A bunch of civilians were running back and forth, collecting empty magazines and handing out reloaded weapons. Then one of the civilians pointed a shaking finger upward and shouted,
"They're coming from above!"
Volko barely managed to glance up before a second monster dropped straight down at him. Lana clutched her zapper and stared wide-eyed as Unity's cargo doors opened over the structure's roof. At least a dozen of the smaller warped were running across the surface looking for ways inside. Most looked like a rodent variety, mutated squirrels and rats that managed to climb the sheer walls. A couple of the bigger ones were pounding the roof, trying to smash their way inside.
Fire!
Caddy shouted, and the 3 guards opened fire. The male guard's light carbines sprayed the monsters with automatic fire, hitting some, but missing most.
Not like that! Aim before you shoot! Use short, steady bursts! You, Guy, Nathan, reload our magazines!
She braced her shotgun on her shoulder, aimed carefully, and shot at a cat-like warped that charged straight at them. The bullet hit the small creature mid-air, and the .50 caliber warped buster's slug tore its body to shreds. The other 2 guards steadied their aim, picking out specific creatures. With Unity hovering several meters away from the building, they could afford to take the time to line up their shots in relative safety. Lana fired her zapper, her shots going all over the place. She only connected every 3rd or 4th hit, and it took 2 or 3 hits to kill the low-level monsters. She and the 2 male guards were doing a decent job at reducing the warped population, but Caddy was in a league of her own. The woman didn't miss a shot. The warped she aimed at disintegrated into a spray of blood and gory metal every time she pulled the trigger on her shotgun. 20 seconds after the doors had opened, all the warped were dead, half of them by the sharpshooter's slugs.
We made it!
Lana sighed in relief, seeing no more monster movements.
No!
Caddy clenched her jaw.
One of them made it inside.
Lana looked away from the grisly, bloody scene, meeting the other woman's somber gaze.
Oh no! Those poor
She froze as her eyes darted to the ground below them. A horde of at least 50 more warped had just reached the shelter walls. Most were of the larger variety, some even bigger than horses. Caddy looked down grimly, her jaw tightening even more.
That was just the vanguard. Their heavy hitters have arrived.
Volko barely managed to shield his eyes when a dog-sized warped landed on top of him, biting and snarling. Volko's other hand shot toward his head, grabbing the creature.
Hate!
He yanked the monster off him, ignoring the bites.
You motherfucking!
He grabbed the creature with both hands, and with the exoskeleton humming in exertion, tore it in half.
Freaks! We got more incoming!
One of the guards standing near the wall shouted.
Big ones! One of them has it!
His sentence got cut short. A huge clawed fist punched through a walled section and grabbed him. Hooked metal claws pierced the screaming guard's body, then the hand pulled back, tearing his head and legs off through the narrow hole. Volko winced at the horrific sight and wiped the blood from his forehead.
That's not something you see every day.
Nori expertly and delicately maneuvered her fingers, turning the ship around, bringing it closer to the ground. With a single thought, the hollow controls disappeared from her hands and the ship hovered in place. She nearly tore herself from her chair, not waiting for it to unfold on its own, and ran to the cargo hold. She came to an abrupt halt at the scene that unfolded. Unity was hovering 10 meters above the ground and 20 meters away from the shelter. A sea of warped in levels ranging from 5 to 7, with a couple of 8s, were pounding at the walls. The concrete wall was giving way. As she looked, a giant beast, 3 meters tall, punched straight through the wall and drew out a piece of bloodied human torso. The hulking creature brought his catch up to his mouth, and dozens of sharp metal teeth and buzzsaws hacked it apart. The monster visibly grew a few centimeters as it gobbled down its gory meal. Lana and the 3 guards were shooting like crazy into the throng of monsters, but their shots seemed to do little damage to the bigger creatures. Nathan was sitting on the floor, desperately reloading the magazines they threw back at him. Caddy shot 3 times in rapid succession, bursting the head of a level 5 warped like a ripe melon.
I'm out! Reloading!
She bent down to the ammo case, just as a flying warped burst into the cargo hold. It missed the ducking woman by a hair's breadth and struck one of the other guards instead. The guard fell to the floor, yelling in fright, trying to fight off the bat-like creature with his rifle. The creature let out a piercing shriek and spread its leathery wings. Before anyone could react, the monster launched itself and its prey out of the ship. Nori walked toward the edge slowly, as if daydreaming, and watched as the flying creature dropped the still screaming man to the sea of monsters below. The poor man was instantly ripped apart and devoured. Then the flying warped turned around for another bout. Nori lifted her arm and pointed at it. A single dart materialized above her metal bracer. She launched it just as the creature was about to enter the cargo hold, and the ensuing explosion tore it apart, raining blood and pieces of torn wings onto its allies below. The other monsters didn't care and devoured their friends' remains with the same gusto they gave to the humans. The sound of gunfire from inside the shelter intensified as more and more people grabbed weapons and rushed to defend their sanctuary. The creatures were still widening the gaps, but finally, the combination of shots from within and above seemed to be diminishing their numbers, injuring them faster than they could regenerate. More and more monsters fell, the level 4s and 5s first, with the level 6s taking longer to die. Nori shot one more missile, tearing the leg off one of the largest beasts. Then, in an effort to conserve her remaining 2 darts, she grabbed and unstrapped Caddy's unused carbine. The hail of bullets continued as the humans shot hundreds of bullets every few seconds. A minute later, the horde was mostly taken down. Mostly. The 2 hulking, level 8 monsters remained. The smaller caliber bullets pinged off their hardened skin, doing little to no damage, and even the Warp Buster's rounds shot by Caddy only caused shallow wounds that healed up almost instantly.
This isn't working!
Caddy shouted.
They're too strong for these! We need more firepower!
A shudder ran through Unity's hull, and Nathan's head snapped upward, his expression full of wonder. The young man stood up, leaving the opened case of ammunition on the floor, and walked toward the open cargo door as if in a trance.
What the hell are you doing? Reload, damn it, or we're all dead!
The young man ignored her and continued walking.
Nathan?
Lana asked hesitantly. Her own zapper ran out of energy long ago.
What are you doing?
He flashed her a reassuring smile and walked over to the edge of the door. He looked down at the 2 huge monsters, each carved a large hole in the wall and were working their claws to enlarge it to get inside, ignoring the occasional gunshot to their faces. Nathan squared his shoulders and looked down straight at the taller of the 2 creatures. He narrowed his eyes and brought his arm up, his fingers folded as if holding an imaginary gun.
The kid's lost it!
Caddy bent down, reloading her shotgun as quickly as she could.
I don't think so,
Nori said softly. Nathan drew in a steadying breath and pulled his trigger finger. A thundering sound tore through the air. The powerful blast sent shockwaves, hurling everyone on their backs.
What the fuck was that?
Caddy screamed. Nori was still close enough to the exit to see the upper half of one of the monsters simply evaporate. Its lower torso fell to the ground, quivering. She glanced to a small monitor on the wall and smiled at the 4 simple words written across it.
Asteroid cannon upgrade completed.
Oh no.
Lana moved to the edge and was looking down. The single shot did more than simply blast apart the monster. It also took off a large section of the shelter's wall behind it. Luckily, the downward angle of the shot prevented it from blasting through the whole building. Instead, a 2-meter-wide crater appeared at the edge of the wall. The remaining level 8 monster was also thrown away by the blast, but flailing tentacles and grasping claws quickly restored its balance, bringing it up for another round.
Nathan, shoot it before it reaches the breach in the wall!
Despite the young man's dislike of weapons, he liked the warped even less. He hastily brought up his hand and fired again, but somehow the monster dodged. The shot hit the ground in a spray of stone and dirt, opening up another crater. Everyone was hurled off their feet again, the monster included. It snarled upward at the ship hovering just outside its reach and scrambled back to its feet, throwing itself at the open shelter wall. Bulko stepped into view, blocking the opening. The giant warped paid no attention to the insignificant human and charged, limbs outstretched forward. The engineer smiled coldly and brought up his revolver. He fired when the monster was almost on top of him, and the large caliber bullet did what the long-range shotgun couldn't, piercing its skull. The creature howled in agony, 3 of its limbs flying up to his face, while the others shot forward toward the human. Bulko shot again and again, each shot hitting the creature's head, sending sprays of bone, metal, and blood. The monster stumbled backward, still on its feet, and clutched at its face, howling in anger and pain.
Now, Nathan! Now!
This time, the young man didn't miss. The ship's cannon, a weapon designed to blast away stray asteroids, hit the warped dead center. Everyone was hurled away again by the blast, and the monster simply disappeared, a red mist filling the spot it previously held.
Phew. That was close.
Bulko called from below, getting back to his feet.
Nori, bring the ship down. Diamond will give us some people to go help Martin's shelter. Hurry up!
Nori rushed back toward the bridge. Caddy stood staring at the young man and shook her head.
Damn nice shooting, kid.
Nathan looked down, not meeting her eyes.
What?
It's nothing.
Lana stepped forward.
Nathan just abhors violence.
Hard to avoid it these days.
Unity lowered to the ground, landing in front of the torn walls.
Damn, those warped did a real number on the shelter. They'll have to find someplace else to hole up now.
No.
Diamond stepped into the cargo hold. 30 armed men and a dozen civilians followed him in.
This ends now.
That's right.
Bulko stepped inside. Looking backward, he shouted,
Hurry up and get in! The warped won't wait for us forever!
What's going on?
Reinforcements.
Bulko flashed her a savage grin.
First, we're going to help the old stadium with their warped pest problem. Then, we'll go deal with their mommy.
What's the holdup?
Caddy demanded.
Martin and the rest of my shelter won't last long without help.
We're gearing up to go as quickly as possible, girl.
Diamond answered in his thick voice.
I know it's hard, but going in unprepared won't be doing your people any favors.
What are you doing here anyway?
Lana asked the impatient woman.
Martin sent me to bring a message to Diamond. I got here just before the first warped arrived.
We're nearly done,
Bulko declared from the entrance.
The last batch of loaded magazines is almost ready.
Shouldn't we bring more people?
Lana asked nervously. Despite the shipping containers taking up most of the space, there was easily enough room for at least 20 more people.
Can't. We don't have enough people who are good enough with a gun to leave behind to defend the place if we do that.
Nori came from the bridge and took in the determined faces around her. Some of the guards were level 1 or 2, but most of them, along with all the civilians, were still at level 0. She shook her head.
That won't do. We need to extract the tech from the dead warped as quickly as possible. The extra levels will give us a huge advantage for the next battle.
How do we do that?
A guard asked.
It's easy.
Nicholas, the level 2 gunslinger, answered him.
You just touch a dead body and you get its tech.
How do we decide who gets how much?
One of the other guards demanded.
I got injured defending the place. I should get more than those who stayed back and shot from safety.
I took out a
I
monster
helped bring
before it
down at
managed
least
to
a
jump at
dozen.
you asshole.
Everyone, shut up!
There's no need to argue. We need everyone working together to get us through this. There's a simple solution. We need to form a party. Join our faction. We'll extract the tech as a group. Everyone will get their share.
Huh. I just got a message asking if I want to join the Earth Force. I hope you know what you're doing, kid.
Diamond has joined your faction. Caddy has joined your faction. Noah has joined your faction. Nicholas has joined your faction.
After nearly 40 people joined, Nori spoke up.
Now spread out and touch the warped remains. When asked if you want to share the tech with your party, say or think yes.
Do it!
And quickly, or the old stadium might not be there when we arrive.
Several people hurried back out through the platform and started running around the corpse-strewn ground. A moment later, increasingly bright flashes of light erupted out from the dead warped and flowed into each Earth Force member. Lana squinted at the slew of messages.
Extracted. 0.03 tech. Extracted. 0.06 tech. Extracted. 0.3 tech. Extracted. 0.04 tech.
The lights and messages continued for several more moments before finally dwindling down.
All right. In total, we each got about 4 tech.
She looked at the excited people. For most, it was the first time gaining a level. Several of the guards even made it to level 4, allowing them to use the Warped Buster rounds.
That's all the bodies we could find!
One of Diamond's men shouted as they returned to the ship.
And we got the last batch of magazines on board.
All right, everyone, sit tight. I'll get us to the old stadium.
Nori said, and hurried to the bridge. Lana approached Diamond and presented the shelter's leader with a thin piece of metal.
You should put this on.
What's this thing?
Communication implant. Each one of us has one. You ought to have one too.
The elderly man frowned.
You want to implant me with an alien knick-knack?
It's safe, I promise. And we are going to have a way to keep in touch. Besides,
She pursed her lips.
you're already kind of full of alien tech anyway.
He furrowed his brow, but the dark-haired woman returned his gaze with an assuring smile.
Oh, all right. Do it quickly before I change my mind.
Lana held the implant to his temple and it oozed in easily, settling as a thin silver strip behind his ear. Diamond blinked rapidly.
That's it?
Yep,
Huh. Easier than I'd thought.
alien knickknacks tend to be like that.
You're funny, girl. It's a good trait to have in battle.
The cargo hold door closed, and the freighter gently took off. Nathan was already strapped into his capsule back at the bridge, his visor once more opaque. He was not comfortable with all the clatter that was going on in the cargo hold. Instead, he busied himself with diving into Unity's warm and secure embrace. With practiced moves, Nori gently guided the ship on its course.
How does this thing work?
She heard Diamond's voice speaking directly into her ear.
You just think of who you want to talk to, and you talk to them. The implant does the rest.
Guys, please keep it down. I'm trying to concentrate here.
Nori said. She pushed her fingers forward, and the ship accelerated, speeding toward their next target. Chapter 19. Shooting Gallery.
ETA, 3 minutes.
Nori said tensely into the ship's internal comms. The navigator glanced to Lana, who was working the ship's sensors.
What do we have?
Lana frowned.
It's weird. The warped are assembled a few hundred meters from the old stadium. Looks like they're just standing still.
Damn, that's bad.
Why? By the looks of it, we'll be able to engage them in time.
At the Grand Mall, they trickled in slowly enough for us to fight them off. If they attack Martin all at once...
Lana felt a chill run down her spine.
Then they'll all die.
Uh-huh.
We have the cannon, though. Looks like it uses an electromagnetic coil to propel mithril-tipped projectiles at extremely high velocity. Wait! I know what it is! It's a railgun! If I'm reading this correctly, the kinetic energy transference is enormous. No wonder it's used against asteroids. It can make them go poof, whereas an energy-based weapon would just burrow through.
Lucky for us, it also makes the warped go poof quite well. How many rounds do we have?
From what I'm seeing here, it works much like your dart launcher. The cannon generates rounds on its own and coats them with a molecule-thin layer of mithril, so it never runs out. Its firing rate is limited, though. About a shot every 3 seconds.
That's pretty amazing.
I guess.
What's wrong?
I can't shoot it. The prerequisite states I have to reach level 12 to use this cannon. I guess an expert isn't meant to operate heavy weapons.
We'll get Nathan to do it then.
I don't know.
Lana glanced at the silent, partially covered man.
I don't think it's good for him. Did you see how pale he was afterward?
I know. But if he's the only one who can shoot...
You're right. I know. I just hope he comes out of it all right.
Approaching the enemy.
Nori spoke through the ship's internal comms.
Everyone, get ready. The warped are massed together, away from the shelter. We're going to hover above them and use the cannon. The rest of you, open the hangar door and shoot down any strays. Keep an eye out for the flying ones. We have to be quick. We can't allow them to attack the shelter in mass.
The ship sped forward, the ground a blur below them on the main view screen. A small amusement park came into view ahead of them.
Nori, look!
A group of at least 100 monsters had amassed below the Ferris wheel. The smaller warped were trying to scale the steel scaffolding, and the larger ones were banging and shaking its foundations.
Up there!
Lana pointed at the top of the wheel. The picture zoomed in, revealing a dozen people in the highest chairs. Despite the ship's lousy sensors, they were close enough to see the people's faces, and Nori instantly recognized who they were. It was Martin and the guards she'd helped level up. They were shooting down at the climbing warped. The ground below them was already littered by the remains of the lower-level ones. But the larger beasts seemed to shrug off the blasts of even Martin's powerful disruptor.
Nori, what are we going to do? If we fire the cannon, we risk taking down the entire wheel.
We're going to have to try.
Diamond, Bulko, and a few of the higher-level guards entered the bridge.
Nori, what are we looking at?
The engineer asked while the newcomers took in the alien-looking bridge with odd expressions. Nori pointed at the Ferris wheel.
That's Martin and his crew. Looks like he's pulling the same old trick again. They lured the entire warped horde here, away from their shelter.
We'll have to try the cannon. Without it, they don't stand a chance.
He walked to Nathan's pod and put one meaty palm on his shoulder.
You can do it, kid. Try firing a single shot at the perimeter of the pack.
The upper part of Nathan's head was still covered by the pod's helmet, but he could clearly make out the engineer's voice. He took a deep breath and nodded. There was a brief moment of an energy buildup, then a low thud ran through the ship as the cannon fired. Unlike before, they were a good distance away from their target and the ship was sealed, so they barely felt the cannon's concussive force. The shot hit the ground, at least 50 meters away from the assembled warped, reducing a hot dog stand to a smoking crater.
Damn! The kid can't shoot for shit.
You did a good enough job taking down those 2 warped at my mall.
That was from 20 meters away, while we were holding steady, and he still missed a shot. On top of that, this cannon was designed to shoot at giant space rocks. It's not a precision anti-warped weapon.
It's not Nathan's fault. We don't even have a proper targeting system, and Nathan isn't exactly a certified gunner.
One of the guards, who was wearing a bright red shirt, stepped forward.
Why don't you let me have a go? Noah, what do you know about operating space weapons?
The sandy-haired man grinned and pointed at Lana.
She just said that kid's not a gunner. It just so happens I'm a level 4 gunner, so why not give me a try?
Diamond opened his mouth to object, but Nori cut him off.
He's right. We should have thought of checking if someone else has a compatible path.
I guess we got so used to doing everything around here ourselves.
Noah, grab a chair and show us what you can do.
All the chairs are currently occupied?
Bulko rolled his eyes and nudged the man forward.
Just reach out with your hands and open your senses. You'll know the spot when you reach it.
Use the Force. Got it.
Noah said with a smile. He raised his arms and hesitantly stepped forward.
Better hurry up.
Diamond grunted, pointing at the Ferris wheel.
It don't look like it's gonna hold much longer.
The gunner's eyes opened wide as he reached the side wall.
I can feel something here.
Before he could say anything else, a chair sprouted from the floor, wrapping his entire lower body.
Oh, holy shit, what's going on?
That's your chair, apparently.
Yes, I can feel it. It's right, over here.
He pressed his elbows to his sides, reaching forward with his forearms. Twin holographic controls materialized around both his arms, covering them entirely up to the shoulders. A holo monitor sprang into life in front of the gunner's eyes.
Jesus Christ, this thing is crazy. I got a crosshair here, and I can see everything around the ship. And I just barely qualify to meet the requirement. Gunner score 10.
He twisted his arms, and his entire body swerved along with the chair as if he was manipulating an imaginary mounted cannon.
Locking onto the biggest ugly brute. And fire.
Another low thud ran through the ship, and everyone turned to look at the main view screen. An explosion hit the center of the amassed warp. Several monsters were instantly vaporized, and the rest were scattered by the concussive force, leaving behind another smoking crater. The entire Ferris wheel shook unsteadily.
It doesn't look too sturdy. Don't hit near its base again.
Just one more,
Noah said.
There's a single level 9 warped out there. If I don't take it out, I doubt our personal weapons will.
Okay. One more shot.
Aiming. And fire.
A second explosion tore through the monsters, and the largest of them, a 4-meter-tall behemoth, fell down with a crater nearly severing his chest in half.
Nice shooting, man.
Thanks.
The Ferris wheel swerved unsteadily, and several of the cables holding it snapped.
It's not going to hold much longer.
I'm putting us down.
What? No!
Diamond protested.
Don't worry. Have your people form a line at the cargo hold's exit. Once we're down, the warped will charge us. Mow them down as they approach. That should buy Martin and his people enough time to get down before it crashes. If the warped get too close, I'll just fly up and we'll do it again.
Not a bad plan. You heard her! Line up at the hold's exit!
Bringing us about.
Nori piloted the ship away, putting some distance between them and the monster army before lowering them down to the ground. Bulko stood shoulder to shoulder with the rest of the guards, grasping a borrowed automatic shotgun loaded with warped buster rounds. He gave a silent prayer of thanks for the tech that made the bullets compatible with any weapon of the same caliber. The warped were barely 200 meters away. Monstrous heads and eye stalks were looking their way. Then, the entire horde charged at them with murderous eagerness.
Fire!
Bulko yelled, and the world erupted into a cacophony of gunshots. Over 30 tech-infused guns and automatic rifles shot hundreds of bullets per second, mowing down the first ranks of the charging warped. As they closed the distance, the shotgun holders joined in, raining even more death and destruction. The smaller warped stumbled under the heavy fire, only to be trampled to death by the stampeding horde. The larger, stronger warped accepted the hail of bullets and charged on. Then, the railgun fired. The deadly projectile hit the center mass of the horde and blasted a wide corridor through them, instantly killing 1/3 and injuring the rest. The following shockwave threw most of the humans to the floor, temporarily halting the storm of bullets. They struggled to their feet even as the remaining warped snarled and charged on, broken limbs and torn appendages flailing, ignoring the pain in their desperate need for human flesh.
Fire!
The sound of automatic fire resumed. With fewer monsters to shoot at, the defenders were able to concentrate their attack, felling one beast after the other, but the distance between them kept shrinking. The railgun fired again, taking a heavy toll on the monsters. Only 20 of the strongest remained, and they were all injured to varying degrees. The monsters charged on, oblivious to their regenerating injuries. The human defenders recovered and kept on shooting, with more of them concentrating on single monsters as their number diminished. At 20 meters away, only 10 of the monsters were still on their feet and still charging.
Close the door!
One of the guards shouted in panic.
No! Martin's men just made it down. If we close up now, these warp will turn around and massacre them. Keep on shooting!
The distance was quickly reduced, and more warped fell to the defenders' bullets. At barely 10 meters away, the defenders' accuracy increased, the bullets finding their targets easily. 3 more fell, leaving only the 2 biggest and strongest beasts remaining.
Warped. Level 8. Warped. Level 8.
The twisted mutants shrugged off the hail of smaller bullets and only seemed to take light damage from the higher caliber warp buster. They were almost at the humans, claws extended, spiked tails ready to lash out and mow down fleshy victims. Then, Nori was there. The navigator raised her arms and 2 small missiles materialized over her bracer. They shot forward, each connecting with a different monster. The following explosion halted their charge, forcing them to take a few steps back. They were injured, with large chunks missing from their bodies where the missiles had hit, but they were still alive. Still dangerous. But the extra seconds the navigator bought them didn't go to waste.
Everyone, target the left one!
The humans adjusted their aim, and hundreds of bullets instantly tore into the many-legged beast, finally bringing it down. The last remaining creature raised its head and let out a terrible, shrieking roar. It contorted violently, jagged metal spikes appearing on its body. Then it clenched. The spikes flew in all directions, like a nail bomb, hitting the ground, the ship, and the humans inside. The cacophony of bullets instantly dwindled to a trickle. The monster roared again, accepting the biting bullets despite its many bleeding wounds.
Shit! It's about to charge again! Quickly!
The huge monster's head suddenly exploded in a spray of blood, bone, and metal. The body dropped to the ground before the stunned fighters, revealing a person holding a disruptor aimed at the dead beast's head.
Martin!
The Justicar grinned at her. He stood back and looked appreciatively at the freighter.
And he keeps showing up in bigger spaceships. I'm looking forward to the next time.
The rest of Martin's fighters approached, looking bloody and tired but alive. The shelter leader frowned as he looked at the injured defenders on the ship.
Looks like you guys got it worse than we did. We'll help.
They sorted the wounded together. 2 people were dead. One had been decapitated by a flying blade, and another was struck by a spike that shredded his heart. The rest of the injuries were not life-threatening, just some punctured lungs and severed legs. The shrapnel was removed from the wounded, and they were laid down comfortably to rest and heal. About a dozen uninjured fighters remained.
So, how did you know we needed you?
Martin asked.
We saw the warped charging the 2 shelters. We figured you guys stood a better chance with the zappers, so we went to help the Grand Mall first. Once the fight was over, Diamond and his guards came aboard to help you guys out.
Doug, one of Martin's guards, shook his head.
The monsters just suddenly appeared. We were lucky our sentries spotted them from afar. We figured the only chance for the shelter to survive was to draw them away. We holed up on the Ferris wheel thinking they'd never reach us and we could take our time taking them out. We didn't expect them to be this strong.
Yeah, we took out all the level 2s and 3s pretty easily, but it took almost all the Zapper's ammo to bring down just one level 6. The disruptor saved our asses a few times. In the end, we just conserved our shots and fired on those that tried to climb to reach us. We were running low, and that level 9 behemoth nearly took down the Ferris wheel. If you guys had come 5 minutes later...
He shook his head. Diamond finished seeing to his wounded guards and approached the other shelter leader, offering his hand.
I'm Diamond. Heard some good things about you from Caddy. That woman is a natural warped killer.
Martin shook the offered hand and looked at the sharpshooter.
I was starting to regret sending you away. We could have used your help against that horde.
The woman shrugged.
What can I say, boss? I go where I'm told.
I'm glad we've got a chance to finally meet in person, Diamond. Now that we fought off the monsters, we should discuss cooperation.
We're not out of the woods yet. Tell him, Nori.
Those attacks were just a prelude. There's a ton more at Lou's yard. Looks like they turned the place into a nest of some kind. They have a gigantic warp there that controls the others. It's referred to as a brood mother.
We survived the first attack, but if we don't take care of the problem at the source, we might not make it through the next one. We're going to gather everyone who can hold a gun from both shelters and grind that place into the ground.
The Justicar shook his head.
We have barely 10 zappers among us, and no more power cells.
You have normal guns, though, right?
Yeah, but we might as well be throwing confetti at those mutants.
He looked down at the few scattered empty ammo boxes.
I saw your guns did some damage, but it looks like you're all out of ammo. So where does that leave us?
Oh, I wouldn't say we're all out of ammo just yet.
Is that so? How much more can you possibly have left?
The engineer stepped to one of the large shipping containers and patted it affectionately.
About 1 million, give or take.
No shit?
And the best part is that everyone can use them, even at level 0.
And that means that we can bring as many people as we have guns against the warped. And also, take this.
She handed him a thin strip of metal. Martin stood, dumbstruck, staring at the item she gave him. Then, to everyone's surprise, he nodded and held it to his temple. The implant liquefied and seeped into his skin, finally settling as a thin strip behind his right ear.
You guys are something else. I have no idea how you managed to do everything you did, but you've given us hope.
He studied the corpse-strewn ground.
So, how do you suggest we divvy up the bounty?
We've already figured that out. You join our faction, then we all share the extracted tech together.
Hardly seems fair. You guys took down the majority of those monsters. The big ones must be worth 5 levels on their own.
Now's not the time to get greedy. We need as many people as possible at level 4 to be able to use the warped busters. And so far, other than us 4, we only have 5 such people. So come on. I'm officially inviting you to join the Earth Force.
I like the sound of that. I never imagined I'd be part of a planetary-wide military organization. I accept.
Martin has joined your faction. Doug has joined your faction. Juarez has joined your faction.
All right, spread out and get to work.
Everyone except the wounded left the freighter and started tapping the slain warped. Wave after wave of light flowed across the ground, splitting into smaller ribbons that infused the members of the Earth Force.
Damn, putting down warped hordes is profitable.
Bulko watched enviously as almost all the lower-level fighters gained a level or 2 at once.
I'm almost sorry to be level 5. The extra 6 tech I got wasn't enough to level me up.
Yeah, me neither.
Nathan and I made it to level 6.
What?
Yeah, they chose the tech infusion boost trait. So they'll level up faster than the 2 of us.
Lana's eyes glazed as she accessed her interface.
Nothing major about this level. Ooh, I got 2 attribute points to allocate instead of 1. Awesome! I wonder why, though.
Maybe you get a bonus point every 6 levels?
Maybe. Now where do I put my shining new points? I feel like my intelligence is high enough for now. Awareness is the second primary attribute for an expert, but I have 4 points there. I think I'll increase my control. It's a secondary attribute, but it's only at 2 now, and I got a feeling it's something I shouldn't neglect. Give me a sec. And... done! Yay! I'm officially level 6!
Nathan smiled at his friend's enthusiasm and turned his attention to his own level-up options. Like Lana, level 6 had no special benefits, so he only needed to decide the attribute points allocation. As a technomancer, his primary ones were agility, intelligence, control, and awareness. Agility was his lowest, with only 2 points in it. He wasn't particularly enthusiastic about increasing his physical stats. He was no frontliner, but the encounter with the hostile excavator had taught him a hard lesson. The world is a dangerous place, and hiding isn't always possible. He should at least be able to dodge whatever was thrown at him. He dumped both points into agility, wincing as his muscles shifted and stretched in response. It was an unpleasant sensation, but the process was over in an instant. Nathan flexed his fingers and bent his legs, marveling at the sense of control and freedom. With an excited grin, he accessed his status.
Nathan, human scion, level 6, 35 tech. Skill, technomancer, bonded. Score, 20. Attributes, strength, 1, secondary. Agility, 4, primary. Intelligence, 5, primary. Control, 5, primary. Awareness, 4, primary. Appeal, 2, secondary. Conditions, tech infusion boost, plus 5%. Score boost, plus 10%. Bond.
Ain't he just looking like the proverbial cat who got the cream?
Nathan gave Bulko a smug smile.
He earned it. Without his abilities and that cannon, we wouldn't be standing here.
She looked at Martin and Diamond, who were talking quietly among themselves.
I think we're done here. Are you guys on board for the rest of it?
The 2 shelter leaders looked at each other, and something passed between them.
Here.
Martin handed Nori a crystallized tear.
That's half the Pytech we've gathered.
25,000? But your people...
Would be dead without you. You've more than earned your share.
But...
Take it, and as soon as I get back to my shelter, I'll get you our half of what my people collected as well.
Diamond...
Just take it, Nori. We have a loan to repay, and Unity needs repairs.
She's right. We've helped everyone out with limited resources. Think of what more we can do with extra funding.
Just think of it as an investment in the future of mankind.
Martin smiled at them.
We can use every piece of alien tech you can get us. And not just weapons. Anything that would help improve the lives of those who have survived. I trust your judgment, so just accept the money already.
Nori's fist closed around the valuable gem, silently accepting the offer.
What about the attack plan?
We'll get our people ready. Everyone who can shoot a gun. I just hope to God your plan works. There's no one else to protect the survivors if we die.
It will work. It has to.
We will make it work. It's time this place becomes warped free.
Caddy lifted her shotgun in a salute.
Hear, hear, boss.
I hope you're right, for all our sakes.
They parted company with Martin and his people, leaving them with a sizable part of the ammo, and they were soon flying back to the Grand Mall, ferrying Diamond and his people home. As they landed at the mall's parking lot, a small Level 2 warp appeared on top of a sedan and hissed at them. The disembarking guards barely slowed as they casually shot and killed it. Diamond shook his head as he walked down the platform.
To think that only hours ago that chump would have sent most of those guys running. It'll make convincing the rest of the civilians to join the fight much easier.
How many people do you think you can rally?
Nori asked. He glanced at the sky.
It's almost evening. I'll pitch the idea to everyone at dinner. Don't worry. I think I have an idea how to get everyone's cooperation.
He held up a Pytech drop and winked at the woman.
We have enough weapons to arm about 600, and we're gonna need a bunch more to run logistics. We'll head out at first light. We should be at Lou's yard by noon.
Same here.
Martin's voice came over the comms.
I've got everyone already excited about finally being able to hurt the warped. Looks like almost everyone wants in, but we only have enough weapons for about 800.
We'll scout ahead and find a safe location for everyone to gather.
Shouldn't we discuss strategy first?
Lana said. Bulko shook his head.
There's no need. It's a simple carpet bombing routine. We'll fly over the target and bombard them from a safe distance, while the people on the ground surround the place and make sure to finish off any warped that tries to get away.
Nori frowned.
Aren't you worried about the broodmother?
Not really. You saw what our cannon can do. It can turn a modern tank into a smoldering heap with a single shot. The brood bitch won't fare any better.
I agree. You kids just fly up and bomb the sons of bitches. We'll take care of cleaning up the leftovers.
Sounds good to me.
Noah was the last to disembark, walking reluctantly down the ramp. Bulko blocked his way.
Where do you think you're going?
I thought... I didn't want to get in the way.
You're not going anywhere. You're the only gunner we've got, so you'll be staying right here with us. At least until after the attack tomorrow.
Noah's surprised look turned into a grin.
I'd like that. It felt great doing something I was meant to. It's hard to explain, but as soon as I took the controls, I suddenly knew what to do and how to make it work. Like I was born for the job.
We know.
Lana smiled at him.
It's the tech. Each of us is wired differently, but we've all experienced it firsthand.
So, I won't be in the way.
Nah, we got 2 spare beds. You're welcome to one.
Just make sure to change your shirt ASAP. That flashy red makes you look like a target.
Will do. In that case, I'll drop by to collect a few items from my shed. Especially if we're going to do a sleepover party. I'll need some cereal for the morning.
Lana's eyes lit up. Bulko chuckled and patted the man's shoulder.
I think you two will hit it off nicely.
They waited for Diamond's people to unload some more ammo crates and for Noah to return. Nori entered the bridge, and they were soon flying toward the enemy stronghold. Today, they would watch. Tomorrow, there would be war. Chapter 20. Warped War.
Oh, shoot!
Lana said as they were flying above the damaged streets.
What's wrong?
Nori asked.
We were so focused on fighting, we forgot about upgrading the ship. The cannon upgrade finished like 2 hours ago.
Bulko winced.
Damn, she's right.
No sense crying over spilt milk. We've already discussed it. The next upgrade should be the basic plating, right?
The others nodded. Noah remained silent, not sure what was being discussed. Nori pressed a few keys on her light console and text flashed across the main monitors.
Basic plating upgrade. 0%.
They waited in silence for a few moments, their eyes glued to the screen, but the number didn't increase.
Looks like that one's gonna take some time.
We've got 18 hours until the attack. Let's hope it'll be over by then.
I'm not so sure, guys. Check this out.
The view screen changed to show the outside of the ship, where a small section of the hull was rippling. The picture zoomed in, and they could see small pieces of black metal growing out from the hull, piling up on each other and fitting together like some sort of 3-dimensional jigsaw puzzle. Nori frowned as she realized the part they were looking at was only a few centimeters wide.
This might take longer than we thought.
That figures. The upgrade called for 18 tons of palladium. Lana was right. It would take a lot longer than the cannon.
We've reached Lou's yard. I'm putting us half a kilometer above it. Lana, you're up.
The young expert nodded and accessed her controls. The 3-part view screen flickered and changed, each part showing a different picture of the warped fort below them. The middle showed a normal aerial view, which made it hard to pick out details due to the increasing darkness. The left one showed a sensor scan view, painting the fort's interior in bright yellow with several large red spots. The right one showed a topographic map of the area, the fort being the darkest as it was situated at the top of a hill.
Nice surveillance system, girl.
Thanks. I only figured out how to do that after my path evolved, and the extra points in control help a lot. As a matter of fact...
She scrunched her face and entered a few commands to her light console. The main view screen zeroed in on a single dark spot in the middle of the fort, A single line appeared hovering over a shapeless mound.
Warped Broodmother. Level 12.
Now that's one fat-ass monster.
You know,
Noah lifted his arms, and the holographic cannon controls instantly covered them.
we don't have to wait till tomorrow. I can get the fuckers from up here. It'll be like shooting ugly mutated fish in a barrel.
Nori shook her head.
No. You'll never kill them all. They'll just scatter. And it might just provoke them to launch another attack on the settlements. Even with the new bullets, the shelters can't repel another large attack, not without suffering more casualties. Let's not kick that anthill just yet. Staying here and keeping an eye on them is the best thing for now.
You sure about that?
You heard the captain.
She's the ship's captain?
Voted by the vast majority of 2 against 1. But yes.
Aye, aye, Captain.
We'll take turns keeping watch. I'll take the first shift.
She stretched in her seat, and her chair reshaped itself, leaning backward and lifting her legs up.
Don't fall asleep,
The engineer cautioned before following the other 3 to the quarters. Lana entered the bridge several hours later, carrying a steaming cup.
Hey, Nori. I came to replace you.
Good timing. I was starting to get drowsy. It's almost midnight.
How's the plating upgrade doing?
Basic plating upgrade, 12%.
So, 12% in about 6 hours. That means the upgrade takes 2 days in total.
Looks like it. I watched the plating spreading over the hull for a while. It covered the entire ship with a thin layer first. Then another one started forming on top of that.
The tech is fascinating, isn't it? I mean, they pretty much screwed up our entire planet, but we can't hold it against them. They're just machines. They must have a code or some sort of directive that guides them. We've only started learning what they can do. The possibilities are amazing.
I, for one, would have been fine living my life without ever hearing of those things. You're good staying up for several hours?
Yeah, I'm not tired. I napped a little. I'm actually looking forward to going over the data El Zyko gave me. With everything that's been going on lately, I haven't had much time for it.
Just don't forget to look down every now and then.
Lana saluted clumsily.
Aye, aye, Captain.
Won't be long till that gets old.
Lana watched Nori leave, then she turned her attention back to the bridge. She refrained from calling her chair and concentrated briefly. One by one, consoles and holo monitors appeared out of thin air, surrounding her with a myriad of partially transparent colors. The young expert cracked her fingers.
Let's get to work.
The rest of the night passed uneventfully. Nathan, who took the last shift, spent the hours plugged into his capsule. He quickly realized that with his 5 points in control, he was able to fork a small part of his consciousness to keep a vigilant watch while the rest of him concentrated on expanding his senses, attempting to deepen his connection with Unity. He knew there was more to her than what he was able to grasp, but whenever he tried to reach toward those parts, the tech in his body started agitating, demanding to take control. When morning came, he disengaged from his seat and went to wake up the rest of his crew.
Morning, kid.
Bulko said gruffly. The astro-engineer had spent the majority of his shift, and the following one, working in the engine room.
What's the time?
The young man twirled his fingers, and a holographic clock appeared hovering in the air.
7 in the morning. Good. The warp still down there?
Nathan nodded.
Any news from the shelters?
He shook his head.
What about the plating upgrade?
Nathan twirled his fingers again, and another holo screen appeared.
Basic plating upgrade, 26%.
Damn. That one takes forever. How about some coffee?
Nathan smiled proudly and pointed at the modular kitchen. A steaming glass pot stood on a raised podium.
Ha! You're handy to keep around, kid.
They shared a few moments in silence, sipping at their mugs. Martin's voice came over the comms.
Earth Force, can you hear me?
Lana touched her ear instinctively.
We hear you, Martin. What's up?
I've got close to 900 men, all armed and ready to go. We're making our way to the rendezvous now.
Diamond's voice came through.
Not bad, motherfucker. I got a bit over 1,000. We're heading out now, too.
1,000? I thought you said you had enough weapons for 600. Why bring so many?
Remember I told you I had an idea how to convince more to join the attack?
Yes?
There were a lot of warped corpses left on the roof and the couple inside the shelter. I offered everyone who joins a share in their tech. There were enough corpses to raise almost half the shelter to level 1, and I used part of the pie tech to raise about 80 more. Most of them acquired paths that have no place on a battlefield, but about 400 others got support paths that could give us a big advantage. Medics, fortifiers, and other fancy high-tech sounding jobs that'll come in handy.
That's awesome!
Damn, I wish I'd thought of that.
Don't feel too bad about it. We only managed so many people because we had the warped bodies that attacked our shelter directly. Be glad your guys didn't have to face that.
Besides, extracting all the tech from the second horde ourselves allowed most of the fighters to reach level 4. Having them use the warped buster rounds is going to be a big advantage against the big ones.
You have a point, Nori. Still, I don't like the idea of my shelter being left behind while Diamond's shelter enters the Renaissance Age.
You've got it all wrong. If we succeed, there won't be a need for fortified shelters anymore. You could join forces and start building one big community out in the open. Once we win and claim all the tech from the warped, the guards will be strong enough to take care of stray monsters.
If we win.
We will. We have to.
The sun was high in the sky when Unity touched down, half a kilometer away from the foot of the hill at Lou's yard, landing at a clearing in the center of a mass of people. Diamond and Martin were already waiting for them when the ship's crew made its appearance.
Hey, guys!
Lana waved and smiled at the two leaders. Martin smiled impishly as he nodded.
Earth Force.
About time you came down in that big tub of yours,
Diamond said gruffly.
We need the rest of the ammo.
Of course.
Nori said, motioning back to the lowered cargo hold's door.
Help yourself. You know where it is.
The heavy-set man nodded and motioned some men inside. Then he took out a small item from his pocket and handed it to Lana.
Here you go. Half the pie tech we gathered, as promised.
Thanks.
Lana smiled at him and handed the teardrop-shaped item to Nori.
We have nearly 60,000 Pytech now by my estimate.
Hopefully, with the gains from this raid, we'll have enough to repay Alzygo's loan and fix the ship. We also need to buy a lot more equipment from him.
So, how are we looking?
Bulko asked in a businesslike tone, taking in the mass of people.
Put together, we have 700 support staff and 1,200 fighters.
Martin said.
Out of those, not including you guys, we have 25 guards that can use the warp buster rounds. We scoured our armories and equipped them with the best weapons we got. Automatic shotguns, heavy assault rifles, you name it.
In short, they're our elites. I've assigned them several people with seemingly rare support paths. One of them can mark targets from afar, increasing the accuracy and damage of his unit. The others also have some interesting abilities.
These guys are our best shot at taking out the largest warped, aside from your ship's cannon.
What about the rest of the fighters? Some of them are holding their guns like they're about to drop it.
Tension is high, but everyone here knows at least how to aim and pull the trigger. Hopefully, it'll be enough.
What are they doing?
Lana asked, pointing at a group of people carrying several cases of electronics.
Our technicians managed to come up with improvised walkie-talkies. They have a limited range, but we can talk to them with the implant you gave us.
That'll help coordinate the attack. What else?
We have people with paths that are capable of building up defenses, others who can lay traps, medics that can speed up recovery, and a bunch of others that claim to have helpful paths.
Bulko frowned at the diplomat's seeming lack of involvement.
A general should know the tools at his disposal.
I ain't no general, boy. I'm just a civilian, trying to do what's right and keep people from dying. If this shit works, I'm gonna find someone else to take care of all this military crap.
We'll make do. Don't worry about logistics. Just fill us in on the strategy.
Okay, just as we already discussed. As soon as your people finish setting up, we arrange them around the hill to put the entire fort on lockdown. 1,200 armed men and women should be enough to surround that hill. We'll take off in unity and bomb them from up high, while you guys mow down any leftover warps that try to escape.
We need a few more hours to prepare. We need to fortify our positions, build up barriers, dig trenches, set up some traps, that sort of thing.
All right, but don't take too long. We don't want to risk them taking the initiative while we're still digging holes.
We'll need 3 hours, 4 tops. Now, for the broodmother, how should we handle her?
You should stay clear of her. We didn't get a good look at her, but we know she's level 12 and at least as big as a bus. Your weapons probably won't even be enough to tickle her.
Yep, that's Noah's job,
Nori said, throwing a glance and winking at the sandy-haired man behind her. Diamond looked at his subordinate and nodded slowly at him.
We're counting on you, kid. I'll do what I can to tickle her to death. Good.
Diamond turned to look at the preparations.
Looks like we're almost ready to begin. You kids should get up there.
Bulko offered him his hand, and they grabbed each other's forearm.
Good luck out there.
You too. Give him hell.
It was late in the afternoon by the time the troops below were ready for the assault, and Unity soared back up to the air. There were still several hours until dark. Enough time to win an extermination war. Or to lose one.
We're holding steady above the fort,
Nori said an hour later, gently handling Unity's controls.
I'm angling to bring it down into the cannon's line of sight.
The other crew members spread around the bridge, each assuming their own seat.
Good.
Martin's voice came over the comms.
We're nearly ready. Our support teams are deploying the last few countermeasures.
Lana frowned as she pored over the sensor data.
I detect some movement inside the fort. I think they know we're out here.
That won't do them much good,
Noah said. His arms were already fully coated in the cannon's holographic controls.
I'm ready.
Good going, kid. Let's get ready to rock that fat bitch's world.
Bulko said, checking his own console.
All systems look good. Plating upgrade is at 28%. Our little Unity is starting to look badass.
Nori, we're in position.
Martin's voice came over the comms again.
Same here.
Diamond's thick voice followed.
How's it looking from up there?
We're in position, holding steady, 500 meters above the enemy. The warped seem restless, but they're staying within the compound. The broodmother isn't visible, probably sleeping, but she's in for a rude awakening. Everyone ready to begin?
We are.
Light up those sons of bitches, Unity.
It's all yours, Noah.
The sandy-haired man frowned as he stared at the holographic display plastered in front of his face.
We have a problem. I can't target the broodmother from this far up. The targeting system isn't sensitive enough. I might as well be aiming by eyesight alone.
Crap! We want our first few shots to count. I'll bring us down 100 meters.
Still no good.
All right, another 100 meters.
I'm starting to get general indicators. Another 100 should do the trick.
Okay, but that's as low as I'm willing to take us.
Unity soared down, stopping to hover 200 meters above the warped-infested yard. The main view screen easily depicted the massive monsters. It looked like they had finished consuming all the humans and electronic parts the old scrapyard had to offer. The thick steel walls and the stripped vehicle frames were the only things that remained. Apart from the warped. Crawling, burrowing, and hissing at each other. Hundreds of them. And in the middle was the giant warped broodmother. Her huge eyes were closed, and her thick metal plating quivered as she breathed.
Targeting the broodmother.
Make her bleed, kid.
Firing now!
The ship's cannon barked, sending a mithril-tipped slug at 30 times the speed of sound. The bullet took a fraction of a second to cross the short distance. The ground next to the broodmother's side burst outward from the force of the impact, blasting away a dozen other smaller monsters that were crawling over and around her. As one, all the warped in the fort roused, lifted their heads, and opened their mouths.
Jesus! It's like a haunted house play out here.
Diamond's voice came over the comms, accompanied by a cacophony of unearthly shrieks and roars.
Come on, Noah. Hit that bitch!
The cannon fired again, and like the first time, it just barely missed the broodmother, sending the other monsters scrapping in all directions.
Oh my god.
Lana's eyes flew wide.
We've just kicked the hornet's nest.
The hundreds of warped on their view screens swarmed to the walls. The cannon barked again and again, hitting the concentrated monsters, annihilating them by the dozen with each shot. But there were hundreds of the beasts, and they rushed on in waves, heedless of the death toll.
Shit. They'll swarm our guys under.
Nori's fingers flashed, putting Unity into a downward spin.
I'll bring us closer, Noah. Don't stop shooting!
Unity arced gracefully toward the ground and leveled barely 20 meters over the ground, circling the fort. The cannon fired again and again, blasting the largest concentration of warped apart before they could scale the walls. Nori kept the ship circling the walls, and they left smoking piles of devastation in their wake. But the smaller concentrations of monsters were mostly unhindered by the bombardment.
Some have made it through.
Martin's strained voice came over the comms.
We're engaging.
From their vantage point, Lana could see Warped charging down the hill, barreling straight into a hail of bullets. The small beasts were instantly ripped apart, and even the bigger ones staggered and fell as they were mowed down by the onslaught. Some of the Warped made it within 100 meters of the humans, triggering the traps. A level 9 behemoth tripped a wire. Thin sheets sprang from the ground, slicing it into several evenly shaped warped fillets. A gruesome-looking humanoid with eye stalks coming out of his forehead stepped on a pressure plate. Instantly, several long chains flew up from the surrounding sand, wrapping the creature and several other monsters. The chains tightened, crushing the entangled monsters with tremendous force. Metal pikes snapped upward from the sand, impaling monsters and hampering their charge. Several pre-calamity landmines exploded. The monsters recovered quickly, though, leaving amputated body parts behind to regenerate on their own. The traps fulfilled their purpose, though, buying the human marksmen the time they needed to take down the monsters at range.
They're holding. Noah, keep firing at the...
A flying Warped soared above the charging monsters. It swooped down on the guards below, taking down a whole section of the defense, opening a gap for the ground-based monsters to engage the humans. The humans fought, shooting the flying horror at point blank, some even hitting it with their bare fists. Several other medium-sized monsters managed to close in enough to join the melee and started tearing apart the humans. The fighters outside the combat zone dared not fire into the melee, but they were quick to reorganize to shoot down more incoming beasts in order to cut off further reinforcement. One by one, the humans took down the Warped that had managed to close in on them, though the cost was high.
They're holding. We should...
Over there!
A giant figure appeared, towering over the fort's wall. It continued to rise, getting higher and higher from a deep hole at the center of the fort. The broodmother was coming out to play.
My god. It's bigger than we thought.
What they had first assumed to be a bus-sized Warped revealed itself to be just the head and neck of a gargantuan worm-like monster. The creature opened its barbed maw and let out a shriek so loud they heard it even through Unity's hull. The broodmother turned her head to look at the closing breach in the humans' defenses and let out another bone-chilling shriek. As one, the Warped who were charging down in loose formations changed direction all at once. They combined into a mass of running creatures, angling toward the humans' weak point.
She's guiding them!
The defenders shot in desperation. Men and women held down their triggers, spraying the incoming onslaught with a swarm of bullets. The desperate move shaved off monsters from the edge of the combined mass, but it was too little too late. With half the fighters on the other side of the hill, there wasn't enough firepower to take down the monsters. They trampled and fell as more traps were sprung, but there were enough of them to bull on through. They hit the weakened line and started ravaging the humans, killing, maiming, and tearing indiscriminately. On the screen, the broodmother swung its head from side to side, and the mass of creatures divided, each charging outward, spreading to the sides of the human circle.
Unity! Do something! They're killing us!
Everyone hold on! I'm taking us down.
Her hologram-wrapped fingers bent downward, and Unity dove toward the densest mass of monsters.
What the hell are you doing?
The navigator didn't answer, but her lips thinned in determination. The heavy ship swooped down at the horde, unceremoniously dropping down the last few meters. Hundreds of tons of freighter landed on top of a sizable mass of the monsters, squashing them into warped goo and sending many others flying from the impact. Everyone on board was rattled badly, but the advanced seats managed to absorb the brunt of the shock. Unity took a beating as well. Part of the bridge hull buckled, and the large crack on the leftmost monitor broadened. Several hollow monitors exploded in a shower of holographic dust. The desperate maneuver took out nearly half of the charging monsters, but it wasn't enough. The enraged broodmother shrieked again, and the surviving warped got to their feet and charged on.
It isn't working! The big one's controlling them. The more are coming at us from the other side. You gotta take her down, Unity!
Nori quickly recovered. Her fingers spread wide on two different light consoles, and the ship's hull groaned as she once again limped into the air.
I'm lifting her up. Hold on down there.
Structural integrity is down to 60%.
Bulko said stiffly, nursing a bruised elbow.
Let's not use that maneuver too often.
Nori stared intently at her monitors as she brought the ship back in level with the fort. The broodmother's head rose above the walls, staring straight at them.
Noah! Shoot that bitch straight in the face!
At less than 50 meters away, the next cannon shot hit the enormous broodmother in the neck, blasting away a large piece of metal plating along with a sizable chunk of flesh. She raised her head and bellowed another earth-tearing shriek. The mass of charging warped faltered. Many broke off from their formation and started charging at the human reinforcements circling the hill, exposing themselves. The farthest fighters mowed them down in seconds. Noah fired again and again, hitting the giant creature in the center of its body, sending pieces of flesh and armored plating flying in all directions. The formation of the attacking warped broke apart even more, and the strays were quickly picked off by the defenders. The broodmother screamed, looked straight at the ship, and opened her mouth. Nori brought the ship into a dive just as a cone of sharp blades shot out of the open maw. Unity's hull caught the edge of the blast, and the sound of metal pinging against metal filled the bridge.
We're okay! We're okay!
Bulko said urgently, clumsily operating his consoles.
The hull took a little beating, but even incomplete, the new plating soaked up most of the damage.
Nori, look out!
The navigator's head snapped toward the main view screen just in time to see the broodmother whipping her tail at the diving ship. Caught off guard, Nori desperately pulled her arms up, trying to dodge the attack, but this time, she was too late. The entire ship shuddered violently as the semi-trailer-sized tail slapped powerfully against the hull, causing a sea of red indicators to light up. Several power junctions blew out, sending showers of sparks and clouds of smoke to fill the bridge. Unity was hurled off course, veering dangerously toward the ground. Nori wrestled with the compromised controls and pulled up at the last second, guiding the damaged vessel back to a safe trajectory. But that wasn't the end of it. The holographic controls around Noah's arms blinked on and off as bright flashes of energy started running up his body. The gunner managed one last stifled cry before a neural feedback hit his skull. The courageous young man went limp in his seat, his head smoking, his brain fried. From his pod, Nathan looked up in horror at Noah's limp body. With a silent command, the gunner's chair turned on its own, revealing a charred skull where the young gunner's face used to be. Everything came to a stop.
No,
Nathan said firmly, as if stating an immutable fact. He was unable to tear his eyes away from the smoking corpse. Flashing images swept through his mind, of people he cared about, dying violently in front of him, while he was powerless to help them.
No,
he said with growing conviction. He was no longer powerless. Throwing away all fears and caution, he closed his eyes and embraced the tech.
That shard took out the cannon and blew up a power conduit. We can't shoot anymore, and structural integrity is down to 50%.
Lana paled as she looked at their newest member's body. But unlike the young technomancer, she was able to tear her eyes away back to the view screen.
Oh my god.
The human fighters were closing in on the warped and had already killed about half of them, but the rest were recovering, banding together again into a coordinated unit. The broodmother was slithering over the fort's walls, making her way down to the human feast.
They're about to get slaughtered.
Not on my watch. I'm going to ram into her.
What?
Hold on!
Unity shook violently as the navigator turned the ascending ship 180 degrees into a plummet so abrupt that some of the G-forces escaped through the inertial dampener, gluing the crew to their seats as they streaked toward the rearing monster. The broodmother, however, proved to be faster. With a few flicks of her elongated body, she made it down the hill and into the ranks of the screaming humans. The monster's tail flailed, smashing and hurling dozens to their death. The few remaining traps sprang all around her body, but their deadly payload was like a shower of soft pebbles against the warped queen's immense bulk. The remaining fighters backed away from the raging fire, the hail of bullets not stopping for a second. They took cover behind raised walls and hurriedly built fortification, fighting and bleeding the warped for every centimeter they gave way. For a glorious moment, it looked like the human fighters could pull it off, finishing the deadly queen on their own. That moment passed all too quickly. The broodmother reared up her ugly head and let loose another deadly breath. Jagged blades flew in a wide cone, mowing them down like a scythe mowing wheat.
Nori, we have to do something!
If I ram into her now, we'll kill a lot of our own, and there's no guarantee it will be enough to end her.
She pulled up, leaving the giant serpent to its killing spree. At least 100 people had lost their lives in that quick attack, and more were falling by the second. At least it looked like they'd managed to take out most of the smaller warped along with them. The remaining defenders continued bombarding the colossal raging creature, while small teams of specialists laid more traps around her, often at the cost of their lives. The traps sprang, some even spearing and tearing the giant's flesh. The small group of elite guards lay in wait and sprang to attack the creature's flank. The surprise attack actually managed to blast a section of the tail off. They continued shooting like crazy, trying to enlarge the wound. It was still not enough. Aside from the elite's warped buster rounds, the other fighters' smaller bullets mostly ricocheted off the creature's thick metal plates, and the damage they did cause was far from life-threatening. Even the large holes inflicted by the asteroid cannon were already closing. The situation quickly deteriorated as the broodmother reared again and started tearing into the defenders with renewed vigor.
Nori! Do something, kid!
The navigator froze. She didn't know what to do. She looked around her, desperately searching for an answer. And one was given to her. Nathan's capsule melted away from him, and he walked, approaching the front view screen. He took in the death and mayhem below, then glanced at the gunner's still smoking body. He held up his arms and, with a calm clarity he hadn't felt since the calamity, said, "No more."
Nathan, what are you doing?
The floor started rising around him, slowly covering him in metal plates.
What I should have done sooner. Bring us down, Captain. Unity will take care of the rest.
The other 3 crew members looked at him in pure astonishment, hardly believing the change in Nathan's demeanor. Then Nori met his determined eyes.
Okay.
Thank you.
He smiled. Then the final plate slammed over his face, and the blob of metal that covered his entire body descended, reabsorbed back into the floor. Once again, alone in the darkness, far from distraction, Nathan could finally focus. All this time, refusing to surrender to the tech in fear of becoming a warped had only stopped them from healing his mind. Now unleashed, the minuscule machines were merrily doing their job, adjusting the fragile parts of his overwhelmed brain, fixing him, bringing him back. His connection to Unity flashed in his mind, growing brighter and brighter, strengthening, reaching all the way to the deepest reaches of both their souls. The fragile union they had established was finally complete. Man and ship were now one. The process, however, was not without its toll. Nathan's consciousness started to fade, claimed by darkness. With his final waking thought, the technomancer reached out and called for his partner's true form. The remaining consoles went blank.
What the hell?
The ship's bulkheads began to move and stretch.
Alter mode engaged.
As one, the consoles righted themselves, once again showing critical ship data.
The ship's changing!
Bulko grabbed and pulled at the sides of one of his holo monitors, extending it for all to see. The monitor displayed the ship's schematic from a third-person perspective, but the image it was showing now was very different than normal. Unity's main body had sprouted 6 giant insect-like legs, and its triangular bridge extended even further from the main body and was moving freely, like a head connected by a neck. A hole started opening at the bottom of the head, and the humming sound intensified. The hole extended, transforming into a gaping circular maw filled with intense, bright energy.
The excavator! It wasn't just absorbed, Unity merged with it!
Good.
Nori plunged her hands downward. The ship slammed onto the giant broodmother's back, flattening her against the ground, trapping her under. The force of the impact sent the 6 legs plunging deeply into the gigantic body, where they remained clung to it. The broodmother let out another terrible shriek. Her lower half was still free and flailing wildly, trying to toss Unity from her back, but the ship was too heavy even for such a monster to fling away. Changing her tactics, the barbed tail started swinging, hitting the side of the ship. Light consoles exploded in a shower of sparks, and new red blinking lights lit up like a Christmas tree.
It's tearing us apart! We have to do something!
This is a mining ship!
You're right.
Nori whipped her hands free from the ship's control and pounded at a newly formed blue console. Unity's head lowered, its maw hovering just above the broodmother's hideous head. To the humans outside, it looked like the giant ship was trying to bite at the monster's face. Then she started mining. A huge jet of bright energy shot out of the gaping mouth, hitting the side of the monster's face. It shrieked, its lower body convulsed and thrashed even harder as the plates covering her face melted, revealing the fleshy tissue below. The beam burrowed through, easily punching through bone and sinew, until hitting the ground on the other side of the enormous head, melting the rocks underneath it. The broodmother's body twitched in a last death tremor, and then it died, finally defeated.
Holy Mother of God.
Bulko's body went limp in his chair.
We made it.
Nathan did it.
He did.
I'd like to know how. Me and the kid are overdue for a long, serious talk.
Nori's chair unfolded from her body.
You can ask him once he gets back.
She glanced at their gunner's body and looked down.
Come on, let's get out of here. Maybe some can still be saved.
Lana and Bulko rushed after her, but the expert paused before exiting the bridge. She looked at the spot where Nathan disappeared and whispered,
I know it couldn't have been easy for you, Nathan. I'm proud of you. Just don't be there all day.
The cargo hold's door lowered, letting in the wails of the wounded and the occasional gunshot. Some of the smaller monsters survived, but the death of their leader threw them into confusion and disarray. They quickly fell as the human fighters mopped them up, systematically massacring every last one of the horde. Still on top of the dead broodmother, Unity's cargo door opened, revealing a woman, speared and impaled through her stomach on one of the monster's spikes. Bulko jumped down to her and gently lifted her up. The gaping hole started bleeding heavily, and she screamed once, her breath rapid and shallow.
Easy. We're going to make it. Just rest.
Help the others.
Bulko nodded. He pressed the woman's tattered coat to the wound, then stood up to see a field full of wounded people. A mutated gopher came flying out of nowhere, aiming at his neck. The engineer caught it midair and, with a sneer full of contempt, he tore its head off. The sound of gunfire was slowing down as the cleanup crew had nearly finished their bloody job. The large man tapped his ear.
Hey, Diamond, you still alive, old man?
You better believe it, boy. I'm coming over your way now.
Martin?
I'm here. I took a hit, but I'll be all right. God damn, what a mess.
Nori stood on top of the broodmother's corpse, staring in silence at the scene below her. The death toll was high, higher than anticipated. But they'd won.
We made it.
Hell yeah, we made it. I'd be really pissed off if we went through all that trouble just to end up dead.
My guys are reporting that they've finished mopping up the last of the warped.
Mine too. Now we need to sort out the wounded and bury the dead.
And to loot the bodies. I think we're all due some tech.
Damn straight. Everyone earned their share of the spoils.
He stepped forward from the crowd and looked up at the four companions, still standing on the giant's corpse.
Where's my boy Noah?
Nori lowered her eyes, and the others refused to meet the shelter leader's eyes as well. Diamond stared at them for a long moment, then with a hoarse voice asked,
What happened?
When the broodmother's tail hit us, it overloaded our weapon system. Noah, he didn't make it.
Damn it. He was a good kid. I had high hopes for him.
Martin limped into the open and put bloody hands on the other leader's shoulder.
We all took a beating. Thanks to heroes like Noah, we're still standing. He will be remembered.
I wish I had fewer people to remember. They keep adding up, you know.
I know.
Martin delicately pulled over two of his men and whispered something to them. The men nodded and climbed into the ship. Once the wounded were taken care of, the remaining people started moving cautiously between the piles of dead warped, making sure they were really dead. Then the messages started pouring in.
Extracted, 0.02 tech. Extracted, 0.009 tech. Extracted, 0.1 tech.
Wow, there's a lot of those.
Lana said after several seconds as the messages kept coming in by the dozens.
Yeah.
Diamond looked at the people as they somberly moved from one dead warped to another, extracting their tech. The two men Martin had sent came out of the ship, carrying Noah's charred body with them. The shelter leader's eyes hardened.
I'm afraid that we can't just give you half the Pytech like before.
Diamond's right.
Martin said, standing straighter, his wounds looking better already.
The option of using them to instantly level up from zero is an important step in our civilization's survival. With this many dead warped, we should have enough Pytech to level up every person still in the shelters. We can't pass up an opportunity like that.
We understand.
However, as you guys pretty much single-handedly took out the broodmother, I think it's only fair you claim it for yourself. Don't you agree, Diamond?
Suppose.
Then let's do this.
She bent down, pressed her hands to the body, and concentrated, consciously specifying her crewmates as the only recipients.
Tech extraction commencing.
Intense flashes of light ran along the broodmother's body, hitting the three companions in huge waves, some even streaming into the ship. Temporarily blinded, Nori had to blink away the spots before she could read her messages.
Extracted, 40 tech. +2 levels. Pytech, 86,000.
Holy moly! I just gained 60 tech and leveled up to 7!
I got 40.
No point crying over it. For better or for worse, we both made our choices. What I don't get is how come we got so much Pytech? Didn't that freakishly tall merchant say it has to be less than 1,000?
We got a few thousand off the dead pilot, too. Maybe the broodmother carried extra Pytech? Outside of her body, for some reason?
The engineer's eyebrows nearly reached his forehead.
I'm not gonna go down that road. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have attribute points to assign.
What about the corpse? Alzygo mentioned a broodmother should drop something called an essence core.
Right.
Bulko drew out a long combat knife from his belt and eyed the giant monster with a professional look. Then he glanced at Lana, and a mischievous grin spread over his face. He offered her the weapon.
Would you like to do the honors?
She looked at the knife with a horrified expression and took a decisive step back.
I'll poke around a little bit then.
Lana's face paled as he bent down and started hacking into the partially torn head.
I think I'll go run a sensor sweep. Make sure there are no more warped in the area.
Good idea.
Nori looked around at the milling people.
Keep me posted. I'm going to lend a hand here.
It took several hours to clean up after the battle. All the people who didn't die outright recovered from their wounds, setting the final death toll at 212. The bodies were carried up to the fort to be buried inside the broodmother's pit, marking the place they had given the ultimate sacrifice. As the last rays of the dwindling sun disappeared over the horizon, everyone gathered together to lay the dead into their final resting place and pay their respects. One by one, people stepped forward and said a few words about the friends they had lost. Each of the fallen names was etched into the steel walls, forever commemorating their sacrifice.
You know,
Martin spoke quietly over the comms as the eulogies continued.
you never explained what happened to your ship at the final moment, when it turned into a giant insect and took out the queen.
It was Nathan.
Lana said softly as she looked at the grieving people.
He saved us all.
He has a very special path. It somehow upgraded the ship and fused it with an alien mining robot. The weapon that melted its head off is actually an excavation tool.
Diamond shook his head.
You kids and your crazy adventures. So you mean to tell me that's a mining ship now? With that big-ass cannon of yours? Looks more like an attack vessel to me.
It's just an asteroid cannon. It was designed to break apart space rocks to a mineable size. I think.
But you have a point. Unity is more than just a simple freighter now. It's classified as a minor freighter. Seeing her transformed shape finally explains that mining section in the upgrade options. You know, our biggest problem before was getting enough resources to make the bullets. But now, we can probably just mine it ourselves.
We can have an unlimited supply of ammo.
It's much more than that.
She's right. If we can find valuable, high-tech minerals, we can sell or exchange them for new upgrades and tools for survival. We could help speed up a new tech-based industrial age that would benefit everyone on Earth.
That's an interesting thought. Some of the paths our people have unlocked show great potential for industrialization and manufacturing. With the right resources and alien tech, we can turn our lives around.
He looked around the conquered fort.
We can start here. This is a good place for a military outpost. The walls are mostly intact, and with the weapons we now have, it should be easy to defend it.
That's not a bad idea. We can border up a triangular area with the shelter at each point acting as a forward outpost. With the resources we now have, we can secure the perimeter. Then our people would finally be able to stop living like caged animals.
We should definitely discuss it after the funeral. With some of the new paths, building up walls and watch posts around the zone shouldn't be too hard.
You think your guys can take it from here on your own then?
After taking out about 500 warped and a broodmother, we still have half the ammo you brought us. We'll be just fine.
The funeral ended, and the people started getting ready for the night. Campfires were built, tents erected, and a crew of several dozen men worked together to seal the wall breaches.
Let's get back to Unity. We can decide our next steps then.
They followed the tall navigator down the hill. The minor freighter was still sitting on top of the broodmother's corpse, her 6 legs embedded deep into the body.
We probably want to pick a different parking spot. This place stinks.
They climbed back into the ship, and Nori stopped to pointedly stare at a bloody satchel lying on the cargo hold's floor. The bag looked like it was about to burst at the seams, and several bloody glass containers were visible through the straps.
What's that?
That? Just a few adrenal glands and other exotic stuff I harvested from the broodmother.
Why?
One of my men is a biochemist. He can whip up interesting stuff from bits of warped. But that is just a bonus. This is the real prize.
He took out a palm-sized pearly white orb from his pack.
Essence core.
Cool. So, that's the core Alzygo told us about? I wonder what it's for.
I'm more interested to know how much it's worth. We need a lot of Pytech to patch up Unity, especially considering the damage she sustained during the fight. Between that and the loan, the Pytech we have now won't last us long.
Okay, then I'll set a course to...
Ah! Oh, what the hell is that?
Oh, no! That's the alarm! I set the sensors for a continuous scan for approaching enemies. It must have picked up something.
They hurried to the bridge, and Lana brought up several consoles to hover in front of her.
It's not a warped. It's something else.
She moved her fingers rapidly across the controls. The main view screen changed to show a topographic map of the area, where a single blue dot was blinking repeatedly.
That's a spaceship, I think.
Shit. It must be the Enthidlon scout we met at the station. He's right on top of my base.
What would he be doing there?
Hell if I know, but it can't be good. He's level 9, remember? My men are no match for him. We have to get there ASAP.
Hold on. We don't know for sure that he came looking for a fight. He could just be looking around for his missing people.
We don't know that for sure. Bulko's right. We have to go see what he's up to.
She moved to the center of the bridge, calling for the navigator seat. Lana and Bulko followed suit, accessing their own terminals. Unity gently lifted off the dead broodmother, her 6 legs bloody as they withdrew from the motionless corpse. Then they folded in on themselves, disappearing into the hull. Finally, the ship's elongated head slowly drew in on its long neck.
Alter mode disengaged.
Then she turned around and shot forward, speeding toward the small blue dot. Chapter 21. Mortal Contact.
Faster!
Bulko said through gritted teeth.
We have to go faster!
I'm flying as fast as I can!
Nori replied from her seat, the holographic controls enveloping her fingers.
We'll be there in less than 7 minutes.
Damn! Okay. Might as well use the time to level up.
He brought up his status screen and gaped at it.
What's wrong?
Lana asked, noticing his expression.
I leveled up twice, but I have 6 ability points to allocate instead of 4.
Huh.
Lana accessed her own status.
And I got 2 points from leveling up once, just like last time.
I got just 4 points from 2 level ups. It looks like after the 5th level, we get 2 points every level instead of 1. Bulko's trait gives him 1 more point every level, which explains why he has 6 overall.
So, you think the number of points we get when we level up increases every 5 levels?
It makes sense. Everything we saw so far indicated 5 levels represent a significant change. We get new path options, more attribute points. I think even Alzygo mentioned something along those lines.
Damn. It means my trait will become less and less useful over time. If at some point we get 10 points per level, the measly +1 I get won't mean much. I should have taken the Tech Infusion boost.
We did what we had to do. The traits we selected allowed both of us to survive long enough to reach this point. So, like you said earlier, there's no sense in crying over it.
Yeah, you're probably right. With 6 points, I can increase intelligence and control to 5.
That leaves you with 2 points. Where are you going to put them?
Strength?
But you already have a high strength score, and that's only a secondary attribute for you. Wouldn't it be wiser to invest in awareness? That's your other secondary, right?
The engineer gave her a piercing look that made her skin crawl.
In a few minutes, I might need all the strength I can get.
Lana lowered her eyes. The engineer finished tweaking his interface, then he opened his status screen.
Bulko. Human. Level 7. 68 Tech. Path. Engineer. Astrotech. Score 18. Attributes. Strength 12. secondary. Agility, 2. Intelligence, 5, primary. Control, 5, primary. Awareness, 2, secondary. Appeal, 2. Conditions. Attribute boost, +1 per level.
Lana contemplated her own status for a moment. Of all her path's attributes, appeal was the lowest. Strength and agility were both on 1, making her physically vulnerable. She considered putting her points there, but then shook her head. Her job was to stand back and operate computer systems while her friends handled combat. And for her to do that, she'd need to be the best darn expert she could. She dumped a point into appeal and another into intelligence. She blinked in surprise a few times at the weird sensation the change had caused throughout her body. Her hands rose to touch her hair.
Is it fuller than before? Status.
Lana, human, level 7, 95 tech. Path, expert, admin, score 14. Attributes, strength 1, agility 1, intelligence 7, primary, control 4, secondary, awareness 4, primary, appeal 3, secondary. Conditions, tech infusion boost, +5%.
Nori eased her hold on the ship's controls and concentrated on her status. Not long ago, such an action would have made her lose control and crash the ship. But her new pilot path made things a lot easier. Hardly pausing to think, she dumped 2 points into awareness and split the remaining 2 between agility and control. Once done, she examined her status.
Nori, human, level 7, 66 tech. Path, navigator, pilot, score 15. Attributes, strength 2, agility 5, primary, intelligence 4, secondary, control 5, primary, awareness 4, secondary, appeal 2. Conditions, level suppression -2.
Not bad.
She smiled to herself. A beep on her console drew her attention, and a secondary holo monitor popped open. She frowned, trying to make sense of the new data she was seeing. The ship's floor started shifting.
What's going on?
An oval shape slowly rose from the floor, growing into a familiarly shaped pod.
Oh, it's Nathan!
The pod opened, revealing the smiling, yet tired-looking young man.
Hello. Did we win?
Nori and Bulko exchanged astonished looks.
Oh god, yes! It was brilliant, Nathan! We swooped down from the sky, and Unity latched onto that ugly broodmother with her legs, then she opened her mouth and wham! We melted almost her entire head off, and that was that!
The technomancer winced at the mental image.
Good.
He glanced guiltily at the gunner station. All signs of damage had already been scrubbed off.
Don't think about it. It wasn't your fault.
It was.
He looked down.
Unity kept calling me, but I was scared. Too afraid of what it would do to me. I was wrong.
What happened to you in there, Nathan?
The young man glanced up at his companions, then looked down again.
Ever since the calamity, I could feel the tech inside me, trying to change me. It got worse every time we leveled up. They kept wanting to mess with my mind. I didn't understand why. I thought they were trying to corrupt me, turn me into a warped. So I kept resisting them, which also meant sabotaging my bond with Unity. But seeing Noah die, I can't let people die because I'm afraid. So I acquiesced. I let the tech do what they were supposed to and completed my connection with Unity. Along the way, they fixed my mind.
He looked up at his friends, meeting their eyes.
Unity healed me. We're bonded, now and forever. I gotta admit, kid, I'm still getting used to you being able to talk.
He stepped toward the young man and clasped his shoulder.
but it's damn good having you back and hearing your voice.
Likewise.
Nori said, stepping forward and clasping Nathan's other shoulder. Lana stood back, beaming.
So, can you activate that alter mode again if we need it? It'll be damn handy to be able to shoot that big beam weapon when things get dicey again.
Yes, now that the bond is complete, it can be activated at will. But it's just a fancy drilling bit. It's not really meant for war.
We might have to test that one out soon.
The old library building appeared in the distance. The Inthidlon scout ship was hovering just in front of it.
Damn.
Bulko took in the structure's destroyed front doors.
The blue fucker attacked my men.
Unity closed the distance in seconds, then touched down gently next to the other spacecraft.
Get your weapon ready,
Nori said as she got up.
Lana, Nathan, you stay right here.
The navigator and engineer rushed through the cargo hold and out of the ship. Bulko was holding his big revolver, loaded with warped busters, and Nori had a zapper drawn in her hand. A feeling of déjà vu gripped Nori as they cautiously approached the broken doors and peeked into the building's lobby. However, unlike her previous sneaking experience, the interior was now a mess. The walls were riddled with holes from heavy gunfire, and broken pieces of furniture and scorched books littered the floor. A couple of human bodies lay among the wreckage.
Damn it. That's Lucas and D'Angelo.
There are several more up there.
Nori pointed at the walkway above them.
Yeah, that's our standard tactic for handling intruders. Grab a weapon and shoot them from above. I guess it doesn't work as well against level 9 aliens. Follow me.
Bulko stepped into the building with his revolver leading the way. They passed the lobby and entered the library's main floor. Most of the bookshelves were moved to the sides, and the center was filled with camping equipment, a makeshift kitchen, and scattered weapons.
That came from the toilets.
What is he doing there?
Getting in over his head. I promise you that.
They crept forward silently until they were standing right against the door. Sounds of footsteps followed by more noise of crushing equipment came through. They carefully peeked through a crack in the door, seeing a figure in white body armor examining a glass item, then throwing it at the floor.
Phlegak, Inthidlon, level 9. Faction, Inthidlon 3rd Fleet.
Shit! He's destroying our lab.
You're what?
On the count of 3. 1, 2...
Wait!
3!
Bulko kicked open the door and jumped into the bathroom with his gun leading the way. The Inthidlon pilot turned to face him immediately, and a helmet instantly materialized around his head. He was still wearing the same gold and white body armor as when they had met him on the station. The gun barked, followed by a metal ding. The alien scout looked down at the bullet, crumpled against his chest piece. The angry man fired, again and again, until his gun ran dry. The warped busters pinged harmlessly off the alien's armor without even leaving a dent. Nori stood at the entrance with her zapper extended, not sure what to do. The alien casually lifted his arm, and a small golden pistol materialized in his hand out of thin air.
Nori!
The large man took a step back.
Shoot it!
Damn it! I said to wait!
Nori was out of options. Either she attacked, or the Inthidlon was going to shoot her partner. The zapper barked 3 times, sending 3 needle-thin rays of energy at the creature's head. A bubble of force shimmered into existence around the alien, stopping the shots before reaching his body. The scout's helmet unfolded, revealing his head.
A zapper? You shot me with a zapper? What am I? A level 1 Ez? Even your friend's primitive projectile weapon packed a stronger punch. At least it was slow enough to bypass my armor's force shield. You should have used your dart launcher. It might have actually scorched my armor.
I didn't want to kill you, but I had to do something.
Nori's gun was still aimed at the creature's head.
You were going to shoot him.
Phlegak waved his small golden weapon.
This is just a stunner. It wouldn't have killed
You killed my men!
Bulko exploded into action. Taking advantage of the short distraction, he charged at the alien. His fist shot forward, and the puncher triggered, adding to the force of the strike. The Inthidlon brought up his free arm and caught the fist that was aimed at his head. His armor hummed, and the golden lines glowed as he was forced back a step, but the force of the attack was absorbed. With a grunt and shove of his own, the engineer was sent flying against a wooden table holding several vials. The table shattered, and Bulko crashed into the ground in a shower of wooden splinters and broken glass. Before Nori could intervene, the alien's pistol fired. A blue pulse hit the struggling engineer and seemed to dissipate harmlessly.
Well, that's surprising.
Flagak lowered his gun.
That pulse was enough to immobilize every human I encountered here. Ah, I see now. You are both level 7. Very admirable. You were level 5 only a solar day ago.
Nori partially lowered her zapper.
Are you saying you didn't kill anyone?
No. I followed your flight path from the station. When I got above the city, I got into range and picked up signals from one of my packmates' comms. When I came in to investigate, the humans here started shooting at me.
The alien was standing with his back to Bulko, who was still grunting in pain. Through the wreckage, Nori could see the large man holding an unbroken beaker, and he was reaching for something inside his jacket.
I don't know why the signals led you here,
she said, lowering her weapon completely.
Your packmate is obviously not here. You made a mistake.
Did I?
The small pistol disappeared from his hand, and he reached down to his belt, drawing one of his twin pistols. The weapon looked like Nori's old disruptor, only bigger and meaner. Flagak trained the gun at the navigator and kicked an object on the floor toward her. It rolled on the floor, stopping at her feet. Nori looked down. It was a piece of equipment, obviously alien in design. She looked back up.
This is a piece of Inthidlon Mark III escape pod. Just like the freighter I'm looking for used.
He pointed his gun at Nori's face.
Now, you're going to tell me where my packmate is, or I'm going to shoot. This is not a stunner, in case you were wondering.
Nori raised her arms.
Wait, please. This is all just a big misunderstanding. An escape pod did crash on Earth, yes. Bulko's team found it, and they scavenged the wreckage, but they didn't find a body.
The gun fired. A dark blue beam passed next to Nori's head, exploding a hole in the wall behind her.
Lies! Then why do I still detect my packmate's communication implant? He's here somewhere. You're hiding him from me.
Nori lowered her arms, and the scout's eyes narrowed in suspicion as he followed the movement. Behind him, Bulko was doing something with the beaker. A bloody jar was lying empty on the floor next to him. Nori looked with amazement at the hole the gun had made in the wall. The alien's eyes followed hers.
Yes, you should be afraid. A hit from the Talon is enough to vaporize your head. And if you don't tell me...
He stopped abruptly as he noticed the same thing the navigator did.
There is something behind this wall,
he hissed and moved closer to inspect, his gun still pointing at the navigator. With his other arm, he drew out a small beeping device.
I see. A shielding wall. Very clever. But it will take more than that to fool the scout. I just need to find the right frequency and... got it.
The wall moved. It extended outward, then split in the middle, and the two halves slowly moved to opposite sides, revealing a small, secret chamber behind it. A metal surgical bed took most of the space, and on it was a dissected body of a naked Inthidlon. Flagak's eyes widened to twice their normal size.
No. Ugh.
Bulko shifted on the floor, sitting up.
Bulko! What have you done?
What have we done? We did what we had to get stronger, to survive.
The alien whirled around and pointed the talon at the large man.
You savage brutes killed him! You desecrated his remains! You're nothing more than animals!
You alien motherfuckers came to our planet, infected us with a high-tech plague, killed millions, including my entire family. And you have the nerve to say we're the animals?
You cut him open. You butchered him. You...
Yes, me. Your pal's arrival was just the thing we needed to turn things around here. We were trying to fight off the warped, but more and more of us died every day. Then the pod crashed and we found him. We used your technology to power our own. We experimented on your friend's body and learned some interesting things. For example, did you know that with the right mixture of your people's blue juice and a bit of warped gland, you can make quite an effective performance-enhancing serum? It was really helpful in battle, let me tell you that. Gave us the edge we needed.
You kept his body so you could extract his essence. Animal is too good a word for you. You're nothing more than a more coherent variant of warped.
And you're all just a bunch of murderous scum for all I care. I have no problem ending all of you. We could use a new source of blue juice.
Bulko, you have to stop. You're making matters worse.
And how are you planning on accomplishing that?
The alien waved his weapon.
You're about to become just another dead human in a world full of dead humans.
Bulko grinned and lifted a bloody syringe.
The warped glands we harvested had varied potency, you see. The higher level ones had a stronger effect. And I just mixed up a batch using a brood mother's gland.
Without waiting for a reply, he plunged the needle into his neck. The alien looked at him in bewilderment. Bulko's eyes instantly turned bright red and his muscles bulged and swelled to grotesque proportions. He punched the ground, rising to his feet, leaving cracks on the floor. Flagak recovered, and his talon fired once. The dark beam hit the engineer and burrowed a shallow hole in the center of his chest. With 2 huge steps, Bulko closed the distance between them. His arm lashed out and grabbed the alien's hand, crushing his bones and the weapon he was holding, while his other hand grabbed at his neck. With hardly any effort, the beefed-up man lifted the blue alien from the floor and started to squeeze.
Bulko, no!
Nori ran at him and threw her entire weight at his immensely powerful arm. For all her effort, she might as well have tried to move a tree trunk. Even before the injection, the engineer's strength was much higher than hers. Now his grip could probably crush stones into dust. His exoskeleton wasn't even straining to maintain the hold.
Leave him! As your captain, I command you!
No, Nori. If these assholes hadn't turned up, we would still have our old life. I would still have my wife and daughter with me. He will pay! They will all pay!
The alien was feebly trying to release the human's hold on his neck with his free arm. The bristles on his face were turning into a deep purple.
You're right! You had justification for the first one, but Flagak here wasn't responsible for any of this. He just came looking for his family. You can sympathize with that, right?
The large man's red eyes dimmed, and the bulging muscles on his arms settled down a bit.
I guess you're right.
With the pressure around his neck somewhat reduced, the alien's free hand dove to his side and returned holding a metal disc.
You monsters! Your whole wretched race! Die!
It's a grenade!
Nori caught a glimpse of the item's description and jumped on Fleek's arm, trying to wrestle the device away from him. Bulko's jaw clenched. He was still holding the alien's neck and other arm, but despite the alien's precarious position, he was still stronger than the woman, and his fingers were probing along the sides of the item. The engineer gritted his teeth, and his eyes suddenly shone with new light. His forearm muscles bulged even more than before. Fleek's eyes, previously full of determination and hate, suddenly filled with fear. His fingers probed desperately at the grenade, and then, with a sickening, snapping sound, the Amphidlon's neck twisted to an unnatural angle, and he went limp all over. Bulko released his grasp, letting the body fall to the floor. His bloodshot eyes found Nori's.
I gave him a chance, girl. He didn't want to take it. And you know why? Because this is war. They are coming for us. And we better make sure as hell we're ready for them.
The navigator took a step back from the towering man, slowly shaking her head.
This can't be how we do things. We can't go around killing every alien we encounter. More will come. Then what will you do? Kill them all?
The engineer looked at her quietly. His bulky mass was slowly returning to normal, and the red in his eyes dimmed.
No, but I will hunt down everyone who had anything to do with the calamity.
We can't just run around killing indiscriminately.
It's inevitable. You know we have to find the ones who gave the order. We must know what they have planned for us. And along the way, we are bound to encounter more aliens who had a hand in it. I'm not going to let them go away quietly.
What makes you think I'll be taking you along, then?
Please. You need me. I'm probably the only engineer around, and definitely the highest level one.
I can find another. Take him hunting. Level him up.
You could, but that would take time. And you still need me for one more thing.
And that is?
The ship this guy came in is parked right outside, and I claim it as spoils of war. Unity's Void Tunnel drive is still busted. I know I can take out the Scout's drive to replace ours, so if you want my help, I'm still a part of the crew, same as before. Nothing has changed.
Nori closed her eyes.
I could just fly to the space station and ask Al Zygo to fix it for us.
You can't, you know that. He has to order a new drive unit from another star system, and who knows how long that will take. Besides, I'm betting the cost will make the core casing seem like pocket change. Do you really want to waste weeks or months hunting warp for money when the solution is hovering right outside?
You thought it all through, didn't you?
I told you before I was going to kill that blue freak when I saw him next. I'm a man of my word, but I did give him a chance. Because you asked me to.
All right. I can work with that. You can come along, but I have conditions.
I'm listening.
Once we take the drive engine from the scout ship, she goes to either Diamond or Martin. They can use it to speed up restoration and help other faraway shelters. It also has real cannons, and that could be really helpful if they encounter any more broodmothers.
I'm cool with that.
Second condition, I am the captain. If we're going to do this, I don't want any more misunderstandings. Whatever I say goes. If you'll go against me, I'll boot your ass off the ship. And I'll make sure we're in space when I do it. Are we clear?
Crystal. I have no problem with that, Nori. We still want the same things. The only exception, my own condition, is that if we find someone who had a hand in the calamity, he dies. That's not debatable.
Okay. But you have to agree to hold off until we have irrefutable proof they were willing accomplices. Flagak didn't deserve to die.
It was either him or us. He was about to take us down with him. But I see your point, and I agree.
Then it's settled. We don't need to tell what happened here to the others. They don't need this burden.
Sure.
Crap. Okay, then. I'll go tell them. What about the body?
I'll get my guys to handle him.
Nori winced at the unspoken implication, but she kept her thoughts to herself. She left the man in the toilets and returned to Unity. Lana jumped to greet her.
How did it go?
Nori hesitated, looking at Nathan, who was standing behind the young woman.
The Enthidlon scout attacked Bulko's men. We had to kill him.
She wasn't lying, but having to hold out the full details from her crewmates gnawed at her. Lana's eyes bulged, and Nathan's face fell at the news.
What? But he was so nice when we met him, and he was really worried about his friends.
I guess he was just fishing for information.
Her heart felt even heavier for misleading her friends. Bulko entered the ship with a relieved grin.
My men are waking up. They're all right. A few broken bones from falling. Nothing major.
He caught the worried expression and chuckled.
I guess Nori told you the good news?
Nathan frowned.
Good news?
Follow me.
The engineer led them out of the ship and into the open square, stopping in front of the sleek, needle-shaped scout ship.
This baby is all ours now.
Wow. This is like the third alien ship we found this week.
Third?
I'm counting the shuttle as well.
Can you open it?
Lana approached the back of the hovering craft and ran her fingers along its hull.
I can't find any consoles to interact with.
I'll do it.
Nathan stepped forward. The young man closed his eyes and raised his arm. He could feel the signals coming from the smaller ship, calling out to their real owner. He reached out with his senses and felt Unity aiding him, directing his mind to grab at the signals, convincing them to bend to his will. An opening appeared at the ship's aft. A part of the hull liquefied, turning into steps leading up to it. Nathan opened his eyes.
There was an anti-intruder system in place, but I disabled it. It's safe to go in.
Waves of light came out of the library, soaring into the four companions.
Extracted. 1.2 tech.
What was that?
My men are handling the body. It's a bit of a shame about having to divide it between the 12 of us, but at least all the remaining 0 levels will level up now.
Lana, can you go check the ship's logs? See if you can figure out what that guy's real story was? And who else we can expect to come here?
I'll try.
She climbed the stairs and disappeared inside the ship. Several harsh-looking men came out of the library, carrying a few items with them.
Hey, boss, thanks for the save. Here are the things the alien had on him, minus one destroyed pistol.
They laid the gold and white armor on the ground and a few items beside it.
Zaltec light scout armor. Strength, agility, awareness, +1. Shields rank, F8. Armor, rank F5. Stunner, rank F5. Talon, rank F9. Pytech, 2200. Zaltec scanner. Fusion grenade, rank E1.
That grenade could have come in handy when we fought the Broodmother.
Just be glad he didn't use it when it was him fighting against us.
I am. I'll just hold on to it, for now. It looks like anyone can use it.
No! We'll put it along with the other weapons on the ship. I think we can use the upgrade options and build an armory.
Nathan looked from the navigator to the engineer and back again with a puzzled expression. Bulko grinned at her knowingly.
Fine by me, but you should take that Talon. We can't have our captain go around equipped with a pitiful zapper. You can use it, right?
Just barely. I don't have the right path for it, but my level suppression trait picks up the slack.
Go ahead, then.
Nori scooped up the Talon and held it up to admire its sleek, curved lines. She tucked the weapon into her belt.
I wonder how Flagak made it just appear out of thin air.
We can ask the friendly alien merchant about it. What about the other stuff?
Lana gets the scanner. It makes the most sense.
And the armor?
Nori looked at it hesitantly.
You should take it.
I don't know. It doesn't feel right.
Feeling bad is the luxury of those who live in safety. We are in a constant fight for our lives, so it stands to reason that our captain should be well protected. Besides,
he gave her a crooked grin.
It won't fit me. I checked the engineering specs. It can only shift to about 10% of its current size.
You should take it, Nori.
Lana and Nathan emerged out of the scout ship, catching the end of the conversation.
It makes sense. You two are always in the thick of battle, and if Bulko can't use it...
All right.
Nori held up the sleek-looking armor and pressed it to her body. Seams opened and gears rotated as the armor plates shifted, hugging the woman's toned body in a tight fit. Nori held up an arm, marveling at the lightness of the material. She could feel the armor press on her, not hindering her movements. Just the opposite, reinforcing them, ready to go at the slightest twitch of her muscles. She felt like she could run a marathon in the armor without breaking a sweat.
It needs to be recharged occasionally. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it as part of my responsibilities as the ship's main engineer.
Lana, what did you find?
The flight log is pretty slim. The ship belongs to the Enthidlon 3rd Merchant Fleet. I transmitted all the ship's data to Unity for deeper analysis later, but from what I can tell now, the ship flew to several space stations. The last of them before coming here was Hammerhead.
So, he wasn't lying about that part?
No.
Everything leads back to that Hammerhead place. I guess we know what our next destination is.
Wait, how are we going to...
Bulko's going to transfer the Null tunnel drive from the Scout to Unity. We'll stop by Alzygo's for repairs and pay back our loan. Then, we'll head out there.
But we can't leave. We just won an important battle, and the survivors still need us. And what about the rest of the world? There are other shelters and other people who need our help.
We're not leaving just yet. We'll leave the ships here for Bulko to work on. We'll take the Hummer to meet with Diamond and Martin. We need to discuss our plans with them, but we can't stay for long. Somewhere up there, someone is scheming about us, and we need to know what they have planned.
She's right, Nathan said. Nori nodded at him.
Thanks, Nathan. Bulko, start working on the Null drive. We'll stay for the night, and tomorrow the rest of us will go meet with the shelter leaders.
Bulko grinned at her.
Aye, aye, Captain.
Chapter 22. Voyage. The Hummer's giant wheels sprayed gravel as it sped through the broken streets under the light of the new dawn. Nori easily guided the large vehicle, evading most obstacles, occasionally driving over them with a satisfied grunt.
It looks quiet,
Lana commented as she looked through the windows.
We haven't seen a single warped in the 10 minutes we've been driving.
Something tells me we got all the ones in this area,
Nori said.
The broodmother kept them on a tight leash. The lone ones we encountered earlier were probably her scouts.
I hope you're right. It means people might be able to finally leave the shelters.
Nori nodded, turned the wheel sharply, and pressed on the brakes. The wheels screeched as they came to rest in front of a big moving truck. The truck slowed down, stopping just before ramming into the Hummer. A dozen armed guards rode the roof.
God damn, girl! Have you never heard of a speed limit?
Diamond's voice came over the comms.
Sorry. I didn't expect you guys to figure out how to fix cars so quickly. Is Martin with you?
I'm running a little late.
Martin's voice came over as well.
We'll reach the rendezvous in 5 minutes.
The truck's doors opened, and Diamond, along with several other guards, came out. Nori, Lana, and Nathan stepped outside to meet them.
I'm glad we have a few minutes to ourselves. I wanted to give you this.
He held up a large, crystallized piece of Pytech.
Pytech, 25,000.
It's your cut from the warped horde that attacked our shelter. With everything that happened, I sort of forgot to give it to you.
Thanks.
Nori pocketed the item.
We should have enough now to pay back our loan and fix the ship.
I also wanted to thank you, in private. Without you kids, we'd all have been dead. Maybe not today or in a week, but eventually the warped would have gotten us all. Thanks, kid.
Everything went as planned back at the shelter?
Yeah. With all the Pytech we collected from the fort, we've managed to level up another 2,000 people, more than half our population.
He grinned at her.
And we've all joined the Earth Force faction.
Nori's eyes widened in amazement.
That's right, kid. With Martin's people included, you now have over 8,000 people standing behind you. We now have machinators, technicians, soldiers, and many others who will be critical for rebuilding our civilization. They even got a few cars running. But don't go asking me how all that techno-mumble works. Point is, the future is starting to look a bit brighter. You guys aren't alone anymore. We're all in it together.
That's actually what we wanted to talk to you about.
The hum of a large engine broke off their conversation as a military armored vehicle appeared behind a fallen building. A level 4 soldier was on the roof, sitting behind a large mounted machine gun.
Honey, I'm home.
Martin's voice came over the comms and the man himself appeared, climbing down from the bulky vehicle. Caddy, the sharpshooter, came out after him.
You're late.
I'm making a fashionable entrance,
He countered with a boyish grin.
Nori was just telling me what she had us come over here for.
Yeah, have you considered what you're going to do next?
We did. We're going to start building a perimeter between the 3 shelters and post armed guards in fortified locations along it. Once the area is secured, we'll start building a proper city and move people out of the shelters. Some of the new paths come with amazing abilities to build things quickly. Within a week, this place will be unrecognizable. But that'll be on Diamond's shoulders.
Wait, you're stepping down as shelter leader?
We don't need shelter leaders anymore. We're gonna build a city, and that calls for proper leadership.
The army had an outpost nearby before they were overrun by the Warped. We'll fix up a bunch more of their vehicles, then I'm going to lead a few expeditions to other parts of the country. As a Justicar, I'm ideally suited for the job. You know, bring order to the Badlands and all that. We'll try to look for survivors and bring them back here. Or just help them get back on their feet.
That's a great idea. And we have something that will help you quite a bit with that.
Are we talking bullets? I hope we're talking bullets. We still have a lot of the ammo you brought us, but we're going to need more eventually.
No, I've got something better. We're going to give you a small ship.
You have another one of those?
Not exactly. We got our hands on a small and fast scout vessel. It has a mounted weapon that should be even more powerful than Unity's asteroid cannon.
Sweet!
You'll need someone to pilot it, though.
That shouldn't be a problem. I know some of my people have paths that let them fly a ship, but probably not as well as you. That mounted weapon could be a real game changer.
That's not all. It can carry up to 2 tons of equipment or about 10 fully armed men. With it, you'll be able to quickly deploy an intervention force or deliver emergency supplies to people who need it.
You'll also be able to visit the space station to get more bullets. We'll leave you most of our trinium supply. That should get you by for a long while. Long enough for you to come up with your own solution for dealing with the Warped.
Wait, are you leaving?
The scout ship will be a huge help. But shouldn't we be worried about some pissed-off aliens coming to look for their ride?
Don't think so, but we can't be entirely sure. That's part of the reason why we need to leave. More and more aliens will come to Earth, that's for certain. We need to get ahead of them, figure out what they're looking for, and find out ways to handle them if things go south. Despite all the damage the Warped caused, they are just a byproduct of alien interference. It's something we have to get on top of.
You're just kids, and you want to mess around with alien politics?
We don't really have a choice. We need to know what's going on up there. And they can handle themselves. We're all only still alive thanks to them. But it does sound like they could use the help of a certified diplomat.
Oh, hell no. I'm too old for going out into space and making nice with aliens. My black ass is staying right here on this planet, thank you very much.
I was only kidding. But maybe it's not a bad idea to take a few more people with you, Nori. You know, for security.
I don't think so. The 4 of us are enough to run the ship. We're going to try to fit in with the rest of them, not come out with guns blazing. Besides...
Her expression became pained.
It's dangerous. And everyone else is too low level. A small incident, like a console explosion, can be deadly for them.
Well, what about me?
Caddy stepped forward.
I'm level 5 already. I'm a sharpshooter, so I'm good with a gun, and I don't die easily.
Nori frowned, but Lana stepped forward.
It might not be a bad idea, Nori. You and Bulko are tough, but you're not exactly soldiers. It would be good having a specialized fighter backing us up.
The navigator looked like she was about to refuse. Then, to everyone's surprise, she turned to Nathan.
What do you think?
Nathan looked down, embarrassed from the sudden attention.
I like Caddy.
Then it's settled. Caddy, Welcome aboard.
The woman grinned and moved to stand next to her new captain.
We'll leave the ship in the trinium at the old library. We'll calm you when it's ready for pickup.
I guess this is goodbye for now. It was a pleasure working with the Earth Force.
Nori shook his hand and gave him her crooked grin.
It was a pleasure, but don't you forget, we are all Earth Force now.
They drove back through the deserted streets, leaving Diamond and Martin behind to discuss their future cooperation. When they arrived at the old library, they saw a line of men moving between the two grounded vessels carrying loads of equipment and components.
You're back.
Bulko greeted them. He was guiding his people while carrying a piece of bulkhead several times his own weight on his shoulder.
Yes,
Lana said happily.
we've informed them about everything, and Diamond gave us even more Pytech. We're rich now!
What is she doing here?
Bulko stared at Caddy with a frown. The impish woman winked at him.
She's coming with us. How are the repairs going?
It's not easy. We already removed the Scout's drive engine, but it turns out it's too weak for Unity, so it needs some extra adjustment. It'll work in the end, but it won't be nearly as fast as the original drive.
It'll have to do, as long as it gets us to where we need to be.
It should. I'll be finished in a few more hours.
That's good.
Nathan smiled.
Unity will have one more surprise for us by then.
Sure, kid, whatever you say.
The Scout's thrusters are still functioning?
Yeah, it shouldn't have any problem flying around. And it's faster than Unity.
Good. I think I'll borrow it for a little while. There's something I have to check by myself.
Lana frowned.
Where are you going?
Nori looked away, not meeting any of her friend's eyes.
São Paulo.
Oh.
The expert bit her lip.
It shouldn't take me very long. The rest of you can show Caddy around the ship.
The navigator walked into the smaller vessel, and a moment later, it hummed into life and soared into the sky. While Bulko and his men worked, Lana and Nathan passed the time showing their new crew member around the ship and explained how things worked. Caddy was especially fascinated with the modular folding aspects of the ship.
It's so cool. I want a bed? Wham! I got a bed. Even toilets and chairs. Sheesh, those aliens really know their stuff, huh?
At nightfall, the scout ship returned. Lana hurried to welcome her friend, eager and hopeful of good news. But as soon as she saw the navigator's grim face, she knew.
I'm so sorry.
She whispered, reaching for the other woman's hand. Nathan stood away from them. His face fell at the news. Nori stood rigidly, accepting the comforting touch.
It's okay. I knew better than to hope.
Lana tightened her grip. Nori blinked her mounting tears away and let go of Lana's hand.
It doesn't change anything. If anything, it just makes our mission even more crucial. To make sure we never get caught unprepared again. What about you, Nathan? The rest of us, at least, know what happened to our families. But you don't. It's not fair. Would you like me to fly you to Israel? It'll only take a couple of hours.
The technomancer's look of surprise was quickly transformed into grief. He lowered his eyes.
My parents were visiting me when the monsters attacked. We tried to run back to the car, but they found us. Dad. And then Mom.
He started shivering and held his face with his hands. Lana approached and hugged him tightly. Bulko appeared behind the ship, catching the young man's last words.
They'll pay for what they did, kid. I promise you that.
What about the rest of your extended family?
It was just the three of us.
Friends, then?
Some, but I wouldn't know where to look for them. Nori's right. The best thing we can do for them is to continue with our mission.
That's the spirit.
And what do you have to report, Bulko?
All done, Captain. The new drive is installed, and all the test simulations check out. We should take her out for a spin. Make sure all systems work properly in flight.
So, your adjustment will work?
It should. I'm almost 100% sure we won't explode.
What?
Lana stared at him.
Don't worry, kid. It will work. You don't have anything to worry about.
And what if it doesn't?
Then you really won't have anything to worry about.
He flashed her a toothy grin. Lana glared at him for a long moment before turning back to the navigator.
I also have a piece of news. I took advantage of our downtime to dig deeper into the ship's databanks. Looks like there was a lot of information still stored in there that I couldn't access before. I'm guessing that my new admin path and sensor implant were needed to allow me to finally get in there. I've only studied it for a couple of hours, but I've learned a lot.
Like what?
Nori asked, trying to maintain a businesslike tone. But the expert could see it was just a facade. The brave navigator was still pretty shaken up. Lana looked at her compassionately.
I now have access to all the navigational data. There are about a dozen marked destinations, all in the vicinity of Hammerhead Station. Looks like the freighter used to work in one star system only. Before coming here, that is. And I've also cracked the captain's personal log. I now know what happened to them.
Bulko and Nori looked up at her with a start, then at each other.
So, the captain received a commission to infuse Earth with Pytech. They closed the deal and received the shipment, a container with 100 million Pytech in aerosol form, on Hammerhead Station.
She raised her hand as Bulko opened his mouth.
And no, it doesn't say who hired them. The logs just referred to him as the source. Anyway, they were supposed to receive a payment of 50,000 Pytech for the job, but the crew had other ideas.
Let me guess. They got greedy.
Uh-huh. The captain's log says that 2 members of his crew of 6 approached him to try and convince him to take a small part of the Pytech they were carrying. He refused, mostly because he was too afraid of their employer. There's a note there indicating he had knowledge of them working with Cordland mercenaries, and he didn't want to get in trouble with them. That was his last entry.
It still doesn't tell us the whole story.
No. But I checked the sensor's history as well. I can do that now, by the way. And compared their timestamp with the captain's last log. A few hours later, 4 packs of biomass were ejected into space. I think it's safe to assume that the 2 crooked crew members killed the other 4. From there, it gets a little weird. As far as I can tell, they just stayed put in an orbit around the Earth. There was a long time gap in the data. Then, about a month ago, a single escape pod was launched. I'm guessing that after being stuck together for a few months, the 2 bad apples had a fight, and one of them escaped.
Nori shot Bulko a piercing glance. The engineer ignored her.
The weirdness continued as, for some reason, the remaining crew member decided to stick around.
That is weird. Why didn't he just take off?
Maybe he wasn't a pilot?
Could be. The logs don't say. Anyway, the ship remained in low orbit for about a month. Then, a huge power surge was recorded coming from the null tunnel drive. Several minutes after that, the ship was suddenly hit with an energy pulse that jumbled its systems, and it was forced to crash land on Earth.
I think I understand what happened. I'm betting Nori was right and the surviving member didn't have the right path to fly the ship. Sounds to me like he tried to override the engine's controls and that caused a power surge that fried him up. The energy signature also probably gave away their location.
And we know what happened next. They were shot down by a Cordland ship, which fits what the captain knew about his employer. And they took off with the canister containing the remaining Pytech.
Yes, but I still wonder about the escape pod. Hey, maybe that was the alien wreck you mentioned. But you didn't find a body? One of the mutineers should have been on board.
Bulko stared directly at Nori as he said,
Nope. No body.
I guess the warped must have gotten to him first then.
So now we know what happened. Good job, Lana.
Hey, I'm the expert. It's what I do.
I think it's about time we get going. Come on, Captain. Let's take her out for a spin.
They walked together into the bridge, meeting Caddy. Nori took her place, and the pilot seat rose to envelop her snugly. Caddy shook her head admiringly.
So cool.
Nathan smiled shyly at her and gestured toward the main view screen. The display changed to show Unity's exterior. The hull looked rough with an uneven thickness to it. A message flashed across the screen.
Basic plating upgrade. 100%.
A ripple ran through the splotchy hull. The shifting bits of plating building blocks settled down onto one another, coming together into a singular, smooth surface.
Basic plating upgrade. Completed.
Oh, wow. She looks so sleek.
Let's see if she handles as well as she looks.
Unity's thrusters hummed to life as the navigator brought them online, and a moment later, they were speeding upward into the sky. The navigator checked her personal side monitors.
Everything looks fine. Thrusters, helms, inertial dampeners, all green.
Looks good on my end, too. You know, aside from the compromised life support, ruptured conduits, and other minor damage we sustained. On the bright side, the new armor plating stabilized our structural integrity somewhat, and the new drive engine responds well to our control systems.
We should queue in a new upgrade. We still have 10 tons of trinium and 31 tons of palladium on board.
She glanced at her holomonitor.
Oh, and 120 kilos of mithril.
We should rebuild the cannon first.
I agree. Done. It should be finished shortly. After that, we ought to reconfigure the internal structure. We need an armory.
Yes.
Caddy agreed feverishly.
If we're talking internal space allocation, we should really assign some for a science lab and, fill it with sciencey equipment.
Caddy arched her brow.
Sciency?
What? It's a word, I think. We could also use a separate mess hall and bathrooms. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm not thrilled about doing all those things in the same place we all sleep.
We can do that. Everything checks out. Do we have anything else we need to do before we head out into space?
I took care of supplies. We should be good for several months.
I think we're good to go.
Locked and loaded.
Caddy declared, grinning. Nori looked at Nathan questioningly. The young man held her gaze for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I'm ready.
All right. Let's take her out for a spin.
Chapter 23. Pit Stop. A low thud ran through the ship as Unity docked at the space station. The navigator made a final pass over her holomonitors and got up. Her snug chair melted away, disappearing into the floor.
Come on, Caddy. I'll show you around.
A tour on an alien space station? Awesome!
The sharpshooter said, strapping a large automatic shotgun on her back.
Maybe you should leave your gun on the ship. We don't want you accidentally shooting El Zygo. He's the owner.
The sharpshooter frowned.
Why would I shoot him?
You'll see.
I'm going to use the station's auto repair service.
Bulko grunted.
And I'm going to settle our loan with El Zygo.
Nathan glanced at the ship's large front view screen and twitched a finger. A message flashed across the screen.
Asteroid cannon upgrade. 45%.
I'm staying. With a thought, the pod Nathan was using as a chair closed up, sealing him in Unity's peaceful embrace. The four members stepped through the docking bay corridor that connected to the main docking tube. Bulko stayed behind, letting the three women pass. Then he accessed a holographic terminal mounted on the wall. A scanning message appeared, blinking for several seconds before it was replaced by new lines.
Scan results. Life support. Overload detected. Fix. 12,000 PyTech. Structural integrity compromised. Fix. 26,000 PyTech. Internal damage. Fix. 9,000 PyTech.
With a grunt, he approved all items, and then paused when he noticed that one of the small menus on the side was for styling. He smiled to himself, clicked the console for several moments, then deposited the crystallized, teardrop-shaped PyTech into a small port. Through the windows mounted on the sides of the corridor, He could see several long robotic arms disengage from the sides of the space station. A blue bubble of pure force appeared surrounding their ship. Then the arms passed on through and started working, opening panels, dipping deep into the ship's interior, removing components and replacing them with new ones. It was a fascinating show. After several minutes, the engineer glanced at the console.
Work progress. Life support, 3%. Structural integrity, 1%. Internal damage, 5%.
They had some time to kill. Shrugging, the large man re-entered the freighter. Watching the automatic repair system from up close was a learning opportunity he didn't intend to miss.
Holy crap!
Caddy's eyes were wide as saucers.
This place is huge!
Nori led her and Lana through the docking bay that opened into the main docking tube. Dozens of doors, just like the one they just passed through, appeared on the sides of the corridor.
I know, right?
Lana smiled at her.
I couldn't believe it myself the first time I was here.
First time?
The sharpshooter arced an eyebrow at her.
How many times have you been up here?
Lana raised her brow at Nori.
3 times?
Uh-huh. This will be our 4th.
Damn, you girls are veritable veteran space adventurers.
They turned to the left, reaching the large vault door that led to the station's main deck. The doors opened, revealing a vast open space and one tall alien. Caddy paled at the sight of the nightmarish creature and took a step back, her hand automatically reaching for her empty holster. The creature looked at her and his jaws opened threateningly. Nori put her hand on the alarmed woman.
Take it easy. This is Alzygo. He's the station owner, and he just greeted you.
That was a greeting?
Yes. He's going to inject you with a language pack that will allow you to understand him. So stand still.
The woman looked nervously up and down the formidable-looking alien.
You're sure? This is not just some type of body snatcher thing where you're all just enthralled to aliens and are about to infest me?
She has discovered our secret. Annihilate! Annihilate!
Caddy grabbed Nori's hand from her shoulder and twisted it, forcing the taller woman to her knees.
You won't get me, motherfuckers!
Damn it, Lana!
The tall navigator twisted her body, easily escaping the hold. Her legs flashed, one planted firmly on the floor, the other snaking behind the sharpshooter's knees. She shoulder-checked the woman's stomach, forcing her to topple backward where Nori held her on a propped-up knee.
Calm down, Caddy. She was only joking.
No!
Just inject her, Alzygo, then she'll calm down.
The tall alien reached out toward the panicked woman. A proboscis-like metal tube extended from his wrist and plugged into a port that opened at her neck.
Please calm down, miss,
he said. Caddy went limp in Nori's grasp.
Did he just talk to me?
Nori helped her back on her feet.
Yes, just like we promised.
She shot Lana a disapproving glance. The younger woman couldn't hide her grin.
Sorry. It was only a joke.
A very poor one.
Caddy looked at the still smirking Lana, then grinned broadly at her.
Keep an eye out. I'll get you back eventually.
Alzygo, this is Caddy, our newest crew member. This is her first time in space, so I thought we'd show her around.
by all means. My station is your station.
Thanks. Hey, how is it we're breathing the same air?
That's actually a really good question.
The tech, of course. As long as the air composition contains all the elements required by your biology, you'll be able to breathe.
Handy.
We'd also like to settle our debt.
Of course. Shall we reconvene in the lounge area?
Sure.
The young expert and the tall alien left the other two women, heading toward the huge window overlooking the Earth. Nori turned to the still bewildered woman.
So, now that you've had your first encounter with an alien, how about an artichoke?
Alone on the bridge, Nathan's pod opened up, and the young man stepped out, his brow arched in a frown. For a while now, he sensed something weird from the ship, a sort of unexplained yearning. Following his instincts, he stepped into the small storage room beside the engine room, and his eyes were instantly drawn to one of the closed compartments. Whatever was in there, Unity wanted it. A warm, white light greeted him when he opened the compartment. The essence core they had taken from the broodmother sat inside an open box, glowing with its mysterious light. From this close, the young technomancer could feel a strange vibe coming from the item. It was similar to the way the tech felt, but different somehow. More refined. The gentle, yearning pull grew stronger, and a host of other emotions shouted through their connection. Eagerness, longing, need. The technomancer closed his eyes and surrendered himself to the feeling. A series of images flashed in his mind. He opened his eyes with a small, pleased smile.
I understand.
He picked up the glowing essence core and returned to the bridge. Standing at the center of the bridge, he raised his hand, and a single pylon grew up toward it.
You share my soul. But it's time you had a mind as well.
He released his grip, letting go of the core. Instead of falling on top of the raised column, the glowing orb remained hovering just above it. Then, it started rotating. Crackling bolts of purple energy grew around the pylon and shot off at the rotating sphere. Purplish cracks started crawling over it, quickly spreading to cover the entire surface, until all that remained was a partly transparent, purple sphere of energy. The pylon retracted back into the floor, leaving the spinning item flying in the air. The orb pulsed once, and a soft woman's voice came from it.
Thank you, Nathan.
Lana followed Alzygo to the lounge area. She sat on a cushy divan while her host took a tall bar stool.
I trust the ammunition I supplied was adequate for your purpose?
Oh, yeah. They worked like a charm. We got rid of all the warped in the area. There were a lot of casualties, but we wouldn't have stood a chance without them.
It is impressive that such primitive ammunition was capable of subduing a brood mother. I assume the reward was quite bountiful, seeing you and Nori have both gained 2 levels since the last time I saw you.
It was. We have the Pytech to repay our loan. I also need to buy another communication implant.
Of course. It has only been 5 days, including the agreed-upon daily interest. The sum to repay stands at 96,255 Pytech, barely 4,000 more than the initial loan. The implant will be another 500.
Here you go.
Lana extracted the required amount from the crystallized Pytech Nori had given her. The tall creature gracefully accepted.
I will return the shuttle to your ship immediately. It has been a pleasure doing business with you and your crew. I'm quite pleased the warped didn't kill you. I would have lamented such an outcome.
Thanks, I guess.
Lana looked at the teardrop-shaped item in her palm. It looked exactly the same.
It feels a lot lighter.
Perhaps you would like to buy more items from me. I have a case of excellent XR ale. It is quite treasured by many other species and can be resold to the right buyer for a large profit.
I think I'll pass. Thanks.
Lana looked around.
Once Unity is repaired, we're going to head out to your brother's station. As another XR facility, I doubt they'll need some of their own drink.
Alzygo's double jaws slackened.
I see. So you intend to head to Hammerhead Station next? In that case, the ale will not be valuable. No, what Hammerhead values most are alloys and mined resources.
Lana blinked at him.
Huh?
My brother's station is situated near an asteroid field in the Alpha Centauri system. The area is home to many mines. Hammerhead caters to them. They serve as a forward merchant outpost, allowing traveling traders to buy resources in bulk while offering miners a market to sell their wares. My brother rakes in the taxes with hardly any need for actual work.
That's unfortunate.
Indeed. He is the bright star of my family. In any case, if you're going there, it would be a good opportunity for you to make a profit. I happen to know that the asteroids around this station have low concentrations of aluminium, which is a key component for several valued alloys. You can make a good profit by selling it there, especially as your solar system seems to be saturated with it.
Thanks for the tip. I'll pass it along.
One other thing. I'd like to request a favor.
Yes?
I have a package I'd like delivered to a friend who's staying at Hammerhead. Could I trouble you to deliver it to her in person?
I guess? What's in the package?
Just personal items I have borrowed and would like to return. The delivery address is on the package. You can find her location via the station's public terminals.
Alright. It's just
Excellent!
The tall alien beamed at her.
I'll have the package delivered to your ship immediately.
But...
The repair work is finished. Our shuttle is back and we're good to go.
We're on our way. Lana, are you done?
I guess...
The young woman glanced up at her host.
I'll catch you all up back on Unity. See you there. I guess this is goodbye for now, Alzygo. Thank you for everything.
It was my pleasure, miss.
They reconvened at the docking bay. The three women looked on with amazement through the airlock's windows.
Well, what do you think about my little addition?
Large words were painted on the side of the ship, proudly declaring their identity to all. Unity. Earth Force.
Not bad. I like it.
Lana smiled at him.
Badass.
Caddy agreed.
So what are we up to next? We're finally going to test the new warp drive?
Null tunnel. And no, we're going to make a quick pit stop on the moon first.
The moon? What the hell for?
We found something interesting the last time we were there. We wanted to check it out before we leave our solar system.
And then?
And then, we'll go looking for whoever did this to us.
Bulko smiled grimly.
And make sure they pay for it.
Or, you know, something a little less ominous sounding.
But equally permanent.
Caddy looked between them with an amused grin.
I can already tell this is going to be fun.
Don't worry.
Richard, a bearded man wearing a hunting suit, told his frightened guests.
I've been preparing this bunker for years. The walls are reinforced concrete and the door is 12 inches of carbon steel. Nothing is going to come through it, eh?
The other people looked at each other uneasily. They had been huddled in Richard's bunker for several weeks, and though it offered more safety than any other man-made construct so far, the monsters were still trying to get them. Every few days, the banging would continue and last for a while, until the crazed creatures gave up and went looking for easier prey. The noises quieted down, and everyone breathed a little easier.
See?
Richard said arrogantly.
Nothing can go through.
Everyone's head snapped toward the steel door at the end of the staircase. 3 sharp claws pierced the durable portal and were slowly moving down, rending it apart.
Impossible,
Richard said, wide-eyed. Another set of claws swiped horizontally through the door, slicing out a small part of it. The claws retracted, and a fleshy tendril probed through the opening instead. An eye blinked open at the end of the limb, taking in the sight of the panicked humans.
Hey! Anyone still alive down there?
A man's muffled voice sounded from the other side of the door.
Yes!
You can come out now. It's safe.
The survivors looked at each other. Then, as one, they rushed up the stairs. The heavy door banged open, finally letting in some fresh air. As Richard blinked in the dazzling sunlight, he saw a grinning man holding a futuristic-looking pistol in one hand. 2 armored vehicles were parked behind him, and above them. Richard rubbed his eyes in disbelief. Hovering a few meters above the vehicles was an honest-to-God alien spaceship. The man holding the pistol followed his gaze and chuckled.
Yeah, it can be a bit overwhelming. Just me and my crew doing the Good Samaritan thing.
Who are you people?
Richard asked. The man held up his hand.
The name's Martin, a Justicar, Earth Forces Special Unit. Welcome to the New World.
Back on Unity's bridge, the captain operated her light console and the freighter gradually picked up speed, putting distance between her and the space station. Earth appeared in all its splendor on the main view screen, the sun illuminating its upper half. They spent a few seconds in silence, watching the blue and brown orb shrinking away.
Do you think we'll make it?
Lana asked quietly.
Rebuild and save everyone, I mean.
We will.
Nori said confidently.
We are not alone anymore. We have people who stand with us and who rely on us to succeed. We are all Earth Force now.
Lana nodded, and then smirked.
And I'm the expert.
This has been a deep dive into Earth Force, Relict Legacy, Book 1. Written by Shemer Kuznets. Narrated by Jeff Hayes. Featuring Justin Thomas James as Diamond, Will M. Watt as Alzygo, Dory Sachs as Lana, and Annie Ellicott as Nori. Editing and mastering by Richard Smith. Sound design by Ahmed Mahmood. Music by Aaron J. Morton. Directed by Jeff Hayes. Text copyright 2019 by Shemer Kuznets. Production copyright 2020 by Sound Booth Theater. For more audiobooks by Shemer Kuznets and Sound Booth Theater, search for Life Reset on audible.com. Facebook groups are great for meeting other listeners with similar interests and finding more great audiobooks. To find more video game fiction, visit the Game Lit Society group. Or if you want to find more from Sound Booth Theater, visit the Sound Booth Theater Live group. To stay up to date on our other upcoming audiobooks or to see us perform live, sign up for our newsletter at soundbooththeater.com.